the Edge all for Special Olympics Delaware raised the $1,100 that it is required there. Again, a great view of the scenes from the top of the roof there that you can see here. And when we go to the side of the building view, Lynnete will be on your right and Melissa will be on your left. Lynnete has been a polar bear for many years and done the mud run. She says nothing compares to going over the edge. If you've just tuned in, we've had people who have done skydiving. We had somebody who did zip lining down a street in Las Vegas, and we had somebody who bungee jumped in caves, and a couple other things we've learned over the 4 years we've been doing the live stream and talking about people and what they've done. Melissa is also a polar bear. They'd like to thank Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated because they support JJ and all of his friends and fellow athletes throughout the year. Lynnete would like to thank her husband Rod, her mom, sister Sue, brother-in-law Scott, mother and father Bob and Liz, her in-laws I should say, her own sons, Drew and Ashley, Mark and Megan, and Scotty, wife Jamie, friends of hers, Ava, nephew Shane, and aunts and uncles, all folks who helped contribute to her plunge. Again, both these folks have done 3 years.
St. Edmunds Academy, the at SEA Lancers tweeted at us. Headmaster Brian Ray successfully went over the edge. The school enjoyed the live feed of the event in the Rollins Center, so thank you all for watching.
Brian Ray did a nice job going over the edge, came in and talked about it. His son involved in Special Olympics, 10 years old. He was involved in Special Olympics in Virginia and then moved here to Delaware and has continued his involvement, a case where his son started as a young athlete, which is ages 2 to 7 programming the Special Olympics offers, and with the hope that folks will stay continued involved in Special Olympics through their school years and then well into their adult life. Every dollar raised today, which we are anticipating will be more than $100,000. This event has raised $758,000 in its 6 years that it has been in existence here in Delaware. We talked about some astounding numbers for Special Olympics across the continent here in North America, where Over the Edge does events, not only for Special Olympics, but all nonprofits. And so we contacted them and asked them for a number specific to Special Olympics, and it's pretty impressive. Today will be the 210th Over the Edge event that has directly benefited a Special Olympics program in North America. They have had 12,700 plus people rappel during those 210 events. They have raised more than $20 million for the Special Olympics programs that they have been part of. And I heard them talk about last night, Jeff Martin, the site safety supervisor, when he talked at the cocktail reception. He said when Over the Edge started, either 8, 9, or 10 years ago. I can't remember how old the organization is, but it's less than 10. Their goal was to raise $50 million for nonprofits, and they have already exceeded that $50 million number. So just the astounding numbers of what the Over the Edge USA company is able to do for nonprofits. And Jimmy was talking earlier about points of entry for people who want to get involved in Special Olympics here, as you're watching Lynn Mullnack on the right and Melissa Renzi on the left make their descent. And Jimmy, go through that again, because we talk about how about every 20 minutes we have a brand new audience because people are tuning in to watch specific people. Nobody's listening to us for 8 hours. So talk about that point of entry. I thought it was an excellent point about how people get involved in Special Olympics through our fundraisers.
Yeah, the point I was making is there's different events, there's different opportunities for people that want to take their Special Olympics of Delaware, Special Olympics of wherever they may be calling home. They can start their relationship in many different ways. They can be a Special Olympic athlete, obviously. They can be a coach. They can be the buddy program or the Unified Partners, where you don't have to. You could just be involved. So you can partake, you can teach, you can coach. And then there's events like this where the Polar Bear Plunge is seemingly open to anybody. There's not as much fear involved, so I think that's a good place for people to start. You can ramp it up a little bit. There's plane pools. There's things like Over the Edge, So, and there's all the events you rattled off. I just think there's a gamut and a lot of different opportunities for people that are really thrill seekers like this, or they want to get involved and there's the polar bear plunge, or they want to coach, they want to volunteer at events like this or at the polar bear plunge. There's just a lot of different things. It's not one type of person. It's not meant for one type of person. It's meant for anybody. Anybody can help. Anybody can help the organization in any way, whether it be financially, participating, or through skill, helping the events in some way.
Yeah, and that
was long-winded.
No, but that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted people to understand. Lynnete Mullnack has landed, and Melissa Renzi is getting to land right now as well. And so 2 more folks, both of them doing it for the 3rd time. And so you can see getting congratulations there. I'm assuming that's JJ Justice, the son, there on somebody's shoulders, congratulating Mom on another exceptional rappel. And so congratulations to both what are now 3-timers for Special Olympics Over the Edge, as we are well over 2,000 viewers today who have tuned in to the live stream. We appreciate you tuning in. And we look forward to continuing this broadcast here. It is drizzling here in Wilmington. It's not the picture on your computer. There is rain and puddles, and Jimmy and I stepped outside when we had a chance. That is JJ there donning the gloves. It looked like he was probably an honorary rope holder at the bottom there for his mother and her friend to come down over the edge. 17 stories, 222 feet.
So this is Cindy Carney.
Yep, Cindy Carney, who has actually replaced Shanique Sanders for whatever reason. We don't know, and it really doesn't matter, but we were told that this morning, so it's not a last-minute replacement. But if for some reason you thought you were tuning in to see Shanique Sanders go over the edge and weren't informed that she is not, and Cindy is going over instead. But we hope you'll stay tuned and watch Cindy go over so you can see what this event is all about. All the money raised stays right here in the state of Delaware for the 4,200 athletes who compete in 19 sports year-round. We just had our largest school event ever. More than 700 children showed up for the school event, soccer event, Newcastle County elementary and middle schools. And then our summer games, of course, is one of our largest big events with children and adults who come and compete in 6 different sports: tennis, swimming, track, bocce, powerlifting, and softball. That's June 9th and 10th. If you are interested in attending as a fan, everything is free of charge. Events go on all day Friday, all day Saturday, including the opening ceremony at 12:30 on Friday. If you want to be part of the torch run and see what that's all about, that ceremony kicks off in Rehoboth Beach Friday night at 7 o'clock down at the bandstand. If you would like to support the torch run, I tell you, they have one of the nicest shirts that we do for Special Olympics is the Torch Run shirt. And you can support Special Olympics and get that shirt by making a donation. Just go to the Special Olympics website, SODE.org, and click on the Torch Run banner that you see, and all that information will be up there for you to see and get that. It's a wonderful way to not only give to a great cause and support a great cause, but to also get a shirt out of it. And I'll tell you, it is a really nice shirt. So do that again, SODE.org. Click on the Torch Run banner. The Torch Run is in its 31st year. Every agency, every law enforcement agency in the state of Delaware is part of the Torch Run in some way and part of law enforcement for Special Olympics year round. They raise awareness and money. They raise more than $6.5 million. That's a great view there of Cindy and the mechanism we've talked about, the lever that she just has to pull on, and that makes her go. Used to be a squeeze mechanism, and a lot of people said by the time they got to the bottom, their forearms were aching because of the amount of strength that was required. And so the Over the Edge company switched to this lever, and I never had to do the squeeze mechanism, but I have done the lever mechanism, and I can tell you it is very, very simple for you to do. Her right hand, which you cannot see behind her body, that is just holding the rope. That really all that right hand is doing down there is it provides some level of balance for you. It also keeps the rope close to your body. And quite frankly, I think it's the balance that is the key, because your left hand stays up on the lever. If that right hand was free, I know for myself, I would tend to not know what to do with it. I wouldn't want it in my pocket because I'd feel like I was only using one hand. But the reality of it is I don't think you really need that right hand, but it gives you a place to put the right hand and some sort of cause. And there she is taking what we call the postcard picture of the no hands leaning over. She is completely at the mercy of the ropes and the professionals that are adjusting her ropes and controlling her descent. You can see I-95 in the background there, as well as the city of, you don't see the actual city, it's more the suburbs at that point. That is the other side of 95, or the west side that you're seeing there. That man with the beard, he is the site safety supervisor, Jeff Martin, one of the best in the country, if not the best. And he certainly has lived up to that billing, I should say, in everything that goes on here. And that's Heather DiRubbio, who will be going down on the yellow rope. Heather DiRubbio. And Cindy Carey, we talked about, is on the blue. So Heather DiRubbio on the yellow, Cindy Carey on the blue. This is a first-time one for Heather DiRubbio. She also works at Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated, so was no doubt recruited by Lynnete, Mullnack, and Melissa Renzi, who have gone down 3 times now, and they recruited Heather to go for the first time. She says she, of course, knows Melissa and her son, JJ, as well. So, again, first-time edger. And she has done the polar bear plunge, so that's her one daring thing, for lack of a better word, that she has done. So Cindy Carney, we do not have any information on. She was a last-minute replacement, as we mentioned, for Shanique Sanders, and so we do not have any information to give you on Sandy. Coming up is Maddie Berkey and her sister Sydney Berkey, Anthony Bernadzikowski, and then a father-son combination of Richard Perillo Sr. and Richard Perillo will be coming up. So those are the ones we have on deck. We have about 25 edgers to go, it looks like. We are at edger. No, actually, we probably have less. Can't do the math here real quick, but it looks like we are on edger number 62. We have 86 to go. And so
that's 22.
22. There you go. Yeah. It's been a long broadcast as we are now getting ready. We're in hour number 6 of the broadcast. I'm John Busby along with Jimmy Smith, and you can see there my favorite shot, Heather DiRubbio getting ready to go over. That's where she feels like she is now, as soon as she lets that left hand go, which is what they're trying to talk to her about. And everybody we talk to, whether they come in here, we talk to them before the event, after the event, talks about how comforting it is and how these technicians make them feel as comfortable as possible up there on that roof.
Yeah, it's a scary thing. We haven't seen as many people have, for lack of a better term, a meltdown in this situation.
No, it's funny because we've done it for 4 years, and only people who watch a live stream get to see what happens up on this roof. Yeah. And so anybody down at the bottom has no idea what these people are going through. And literally, Jimmy, in the 4 years, we've had a handful of people who have looked like they just weren't going to go, and they end up going. Right. And that's what these technicians specialize in, and that's what Jeff Martin said, that that's what he considered. He said every single person who goes down should have fun and should enjoy the experience, and that's his job. What he considers, other than being the site safety supervisor, his other most important job for that to happen. And so here you're getting ready to see Heather and Cindy. Cindy there is on your left. Not sure if they know each other. They're kind of talking. Now, Shanique, who was going to go over, is from Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated. And the way Heather and Cindy, who replaced Shanique, are communicating back and forth at the top there, and it even looks like Heather is waiting for Cindy. I'm going to guess that Cindy also works for Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated and is part of what is a foursome of people from that company who are part of this. And this really is how this event grows. And although our numbers they're bigger than they've been the last 3 years, we would still like this event to continue to grow numbers-wise. We'll have 87 people go over when it's all said and done here today. We'd like that number to get close to 100. And the only way for that to happen is for people to recruit other people to go over the edge. And then there's 2 ways you can do that. You can be the person who goes over and recruits somebody to go with you, or you can be the person who does not want to go over, or maybe has already gone over and doesn't want to go over again, but are willing to help spearhead the fundraising effort of $1,100 to send somebody else over. It could be a colleague, it could be a relative, it could be a boss, it could be a coach, it could be a teammate. And so if you're sitting there thinking, wow, this is something I would never do, but what a great cause, I wish I had the nerve to do it. Well, you don't need the nerve to do it. You need to have the motivation to be the person to make the fundraising happen so that somebody can do it. Because I guarantee you, you know somebody who would want to do this event. If you went to them and said, hey, I've got a great cause, and I'm willing to help you raise the $1,100. Those have to be the Berkey sisters you're looking at there, Maddie and Sydney. And so you get an obvious thing. We've been talking over and over, great camera angle of the structure and how everything is tied to the cement structure I've been talking about. You just saw it there on your left, and now you can see all those ropes and the safety measures that are taken as the Berkey sisters prepared to get tethered up top there. And so again, back to my point, if you don't want to do this event, but you want to support the cause and help somebody do this event, find that person who wants to do it and offer to help spearhead the fundraising for them to do it. It's the 17th or the 7th annual. It's 17 stories that it takes to rappel down the side of this 300 Delaware Avenue building. And you can see Heather and Cindy kind of trying to make it down there themselves, step by step.
And you can see the rain's eased up a little bit. We are kind of using the camera lens as the meteorologist for the day. It seems to have gotten a little bit easier. Richie Raspa just came in. He's been outside the entire day, except for now. He's getting to direct the rest of the broadcast. So he's been out in it the whole time. And has it been pretty steady the whole time? There was a period of worseness in the last 30 minutes or so.
Worseness, yeah. I like that. Yeah. You could tell in the camera lens it was getting worse, and fortunately, it looks like it's still raining. And Jimmy, you and I were out there, and we said basically the same thing. It would be okay for a few minutes to watch somebody come down, but you wouldn't want to stand out there for long. But again, to reiterate that the crew here, they've been part of this event in worse weather. And they've got measures in place. They know it's the person on the roof. It's Jeff Martin, the site safety supervisor, who makes any decisions on whether or not this should be delayed for whatever reason. And he told us when he was training the volunteers yesterday and talking to us as the staff members, he said, there are situations where there are definite marks. If the winds get to 25 miles per hour, we stop. He even said, I'd like to take it a step further, and if they get to 20 miles per hour, we stop, because I don't think the people get the same enjoyable experience if it's windier than that. Rain, a slight drizzle. It's been drizzling for almost 2 hours now. They're still going on. The safety of the rope is not impacted. The safety of the structure pieces on top of that roof are not impacted. If it were to start lightning, or if there was even lightning within X number of miles of this building, they will stop the event. Safety is their number one priority. It's why this event has gone on with literally hundreds of events, and they have never had a safety issue in any part of the event at any step of the way. So you can see the raindrops there on that view. It's actually kind of a cool picture. You can see the rain. You can see the reflection of the building across the street there. We were on 300 Delaware Avenue. This is the 300 Delaware Avenue building owned by Brandywine Realty Trust. And you can see the duo of Heather DiRubbio and Cindy Carney coming to the end here. That is Heather on the left, Cindy on the right. And thanks to Cindy for doing this. She was a last-minute substitution. One of those things, you get a call, Jimmy, first thing in the morning, hey, I got something for you to do today. You're going to rappel 17 stories.
What a chore. Thank you for sticking me with that.
And so she came and enthusiastically did it. And we appreciate it. And, of course, we appreciate Shanique Sanders, who probably raised the money for that slot. And so a thank you to Shanique. The next best thing of raising the money and rappelling, if you can't rappel, is to still have raised the money to support the 4,200 athletes in Special Olympics. And Maddie Berkey and Sydney Berkey will be next. We saw them getting tethered up there. There's one of them. They are sisters. One's a sophomore. The other a senior. Maddie is a sophomore at Red Lion Christian Academy. And Sydney is a senior at Red Lion Christian Academy. She will be graduating on May 26th and attending the University of Delaware. Sydney and Maddie's dad, Dennis, represented the Wilmington Manor Lions Club as an edger last year, so that they thought they would try it together this year. And so Sydney and Maddie going over the edge to benefit Special Olympics Delaware after watching their father do the same thing last year. Both are first-timers. Sydney said, I'm looking forward to the view and being able to say I rappelled down a 17-story building. Maddie, on the other hand, only a sophomore, I'm looking forward to checking it off my bucket list. It was something I wanted to do with my sister, and I'm glad I can be here and experience it with her. A couple daring things they've done. Sydney has ridden a mechanical bull, and she has zip-lined upside down in Costa Rica. So zip-lining upside down in Costa Rica. She's also swam with dolphins. That's got to be a little bit more peaceful. Maddie has zip-lined, parasailed. She's done a skydiving simulator. That I might do. That sounds a little bit safer, the skylining simulator. And she has also swam with the dolphins. They'd like to thank their family and friends and members of the Asbury United Methodist Church in Newcastle for their generous donation. So I hope they stop in. I want to hear more about, A, the skydiving simulator. You've heard me say over and over, I will not skydive, but I might do that. But also about this upside-down zip lining in Costa Rica. That's got to be almost as exciting as
Zip lining?
Zip lining, thank you. Zip lining down the street in Las Vegas.
I wonder if this simulator is like one of those tubes with air that kind of holds you up so you get that zero-gravity free fall thing, or if it's like some sort of virtual reality headset thing.
I don't think I want to be blown around in the air, so I'm hoping it's a virtual reality headset thing. Personally,
yeah,
there's still
sure
a chance I could get injured blown around in the air. All right, I just got word Maddie is in the yellow rope. Sydney is on the blue rope. So that's Sydney on the left, Maddie on the right. Maddie is the sophomore, Sydney the senior, both at Red Lion Christian Academy, heading to the University of Delaware. So our 64th and 65th edgers overall, actually 65th and 66th, because we've got the running total that was printed last night. We had somebody who wanted to go today, came in and wrote us a check, and they got to go first. So that's where we are right now. And we've got 86. We're going 80. So we're almost, we got 20 left. 20 left to go after this. Actually 19 because Raymond Cool has already gone. He's on that second half of that list that I'm looking at. So Anthony Bernadzikowski should be next, along with a father-son combination of Richard T. Perillo and Richard J. Perillo, and then another Richard Malin after that, and Michael McFadden coming up after that. So here go the Berkey sisters. Once again, that is Sydney on your left, Maddie on your right. And that will be reversed when we turn around and get the other angle. Both like they're getting the feel of it. And heading down there. My guess is it's always interesting, you know, Jimmy, and we've heard stories sometimes when people go down in pairs like this and they know each other. Sometimes they race. Right. Sometimes they, they pace themselves. And this must be the group from the Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated. There they are. So the four ladies, do me a favor and close that door there so we don't get the background noise. And Heather, let's start with you. You went down for the first time, correct?
Correct.
All right, hold that microphone up close there so
Correct.
we can hear. What was the experience like?
It was nerve-wracking until you got over the edge.
And then once that happened?
It was smooth sailing from there once you got over.
Did the rain impact you at all? Or, of course, you're a first-timer.
I'm a first-timer, so anything I would say would impact. But no, it didn't really play a part.
All right. Now, where's Cindy? Cindy, put that microphone there. Now, did you get a phone call this morning and say, hey, Cindy, guess what you're doing today? You're going to go rappel 17 stories? Because you replaced Shanique, correct?
Yes,
How'd
I did.
that unfold?
I got that call, I believe, Tuesday.
So you had a little time to get stressed out. Would have been better off getting it this morning, probably, right?
I don't know. I had a little bit of time to prepare.
And so what was the experience like for you, first-timer?
Very exhilarating. Nervous a little bit, but it was wonderful.
Not too bad.
I would do it again in a heartbeat.
There you go. Lynnete. Yes.
Yes.
Third time?
Third time.
Third time,
yes.
I read that right? Did the
Yes.
rain any different than the first two times? This first time we've ever had rain.
No, we had good weather.
And
Yeah,
that's
all
what,
the
you
other
know,
times was good weather.
And that's what we've told, people have told us. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's nice to hear from somebody
Actually, it wasn't bad with the rain because it seemed like once you get over that ledge, it was dry. The windows were dry.
That's
so.
good to hear. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's what people have told us. And
Yeah.
a couple of the people
Because
have
I was
said that had
very
nothing to
hesitant
compare
about doing it with the rain.
to. Oh, yeah.
I told Melissa I'm not doing it if it's raining. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
So-
first timer, third timer, and Melissa, your fifth time, and your son JJ is in Special Olympics.
Yes.
And so we've obviously met before, and you've seen the value of Special Olympics for your son JJ. Talk to that a little bit. You know, you've convinced 3 of your colleagues to go over the edge to them for the
Not
first
me,
time.
him.
Oh, well, it was JJ. Well, you know what? That'll do it.
It's all
JJ's a
JJ.
salesperson. I
He
know
is a
that.
good
but
salesperson.
How has Special Olympics been a positive thing in your, not only JJ's life, but your life as a family?
It's been great just to see his confidence be built throughout the years, because he's always had a little bit of anxiety when he goes to compete in the sports, and he does great, loves it once he actually gets going with
Right.
it.
Yeah. Was he out there on the shoulders?
He
Is
was.
that
He likes to hold the ropes for us.
That's what
yes.
we thought. We saw him from the back, and I
Yes.
thought that was who it was. So
Yep.
everybody coming back again next year?
Yes, we'll be back.
All right, that's good. You got everybody recruits one more person.
Yep.
That means we'll have 8 from. There you go. Good. Great. Well, thank you for supporting Special Olympics.
Thank
and
you,
thank
guys.
you for your involved.
Appreciate
and
it.
now you can go. Your stomachs are probably a little more settled. You can go have a hot dog and a soft pretzel and
Yes.
enjoy the TD Bank festivities. So thanks for stopping by. That was the gang from Brandywine Smyrna Incorporated: Lynnete, Mullnack, Melissa Renzi, Heather DiRubbio, and Cindy Carney. All 4 of them going over the edge. Jimmy.
2 words to describe that: peer pressure.
Yes, and that's what happens. That's why the plunge is as big as it is, and that's why this event is sustained itself. As we've said, if you're not willing to go over the edge yourself, help fundraise so somebody else can do it. These
Speaking
are the
of peer
Berkey sisters.
pressure, this is peer pressure
Yes,
as well.
older sister
Sisters
and
going
younger
down.
sister. Yep. And if their father, if you just tuned in, their father did it last year, Dennis Berkey, and they decided that they would like to do it this year. So they're doing it, and Dennis, I'm sure, is at the ground, on the ground, cheering them on. We appreciate you tuning in. More than 2,000 people have checked in to see somebody they know, or maybe just see what this experience is all about. If you're using social media, please use #OverTheEdgeDE. Vic Reddy tweets cool charity event hosted by SO Delaware. Thank you, Vic. Just watching, probably seeing what this is all about. If you are watching and you want to go next year, the registration is already up. You can go to the SODE.org website, click on the Over the Edge banner. Takes you to the landing page, and it says register for the 2018 event. You just need to put down $50, and you have the rest of the year to raise the additional $1,050, $1,100 required to have this experience. Only experience you're going to have like it in the state of Delaware. A, because there's only buildings this tall in Wilmington, and B, because Special Olympics Delaware owns the right to the Over the Edge event in the state of Delaware. So if you want to do it, this is the only show in town, and next year on May 10th, you can rappel 17 stories, 222 feet, down to 300 Delaware Avenue building in Wilmington, as Maddie Berkey on your left, the sophomore at Redline Christian Academy, and Sydney Berkey, her older sister, the senior, heading to UD next year, is on your right. They're making their way down. Anthony Bernadzikowski is up in the bullpen. Richard Perillo, senior, and Richard J. Perillo. I guess they're actually not junior and senior because they have different middle names. Richard Malin and Michael McFadden on deck as well. This is the 7th annual Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. You're listening to the live stream broadcast. We are approaching hour number 7 of 8. The last repeller is scheduled to go down at 4:30. Looks like we are right about exactly on time for that event to happen at 4:30 to wrap up our broadcast. We appreciate you tuning in. It is raining, as you can see the rain pellets on the lens of our camera that's out on the street looking up. This is a great shot, and as Jimmy and I discussed earlier, it's a nice, if one of the cameras is going to have raindrops, this is the one to have it, because you still see the exact same thing you see, which is 2 bodies coming down. We intentionally don't zoom in, because what you're getting right now is you're getting the experience of what it's like if you were here live looking up. That is the angle that the cameraman has, even when he's not looking through the lens. So you get the true live experience. Whereas on the roof, we get to zoom in a little bit closer. You can see the facial expressions, and you can see, whether it's a smile, a look of fear, a deep breath we've seen. You get to see that action as people are going over, which we know that they will enjoy seeing. I hear comments all the time after people go back and they watch the live stream, and this will be available probably early next week for people to go back and look at and see themselves. And whether they just watch it themselves, they'll be able to share it with friends and family. Or a couple of people I know last year had what they called Over the Edge viewing parties, where they brought people together, excuse to get together, and they watched the different people in that party go over the edge. So a couple different ways that people have used it over the years. So we are in the home stretch, the final 2 hours of what has been and will be an 8-hour broadcast before it is all said and done. John Busby along with Jimmy Smith here. He heads up the production team, also jumps in on the broadcast, which allows me to catch my breath once in a while. So appreciate him being
Catch
here.
your breath. So very cool day so far. Over the edge for our 4th year here on the broadcast, reaching today 2,200 people so far and 61 live on right now. On Ustream, if you're needing to leave the house or step away from the computer for a second, you can watch it right on your phone. A great mobile experience, and that's why we partner with them to get this broadcast out to you as we try to approach the home stretch here on the broadcast, as the Berkey sisters are about to, it's turning into a little bit of a race here as Sydney has the lead. She starts to come into frame there at the bottom, and not far behind is Maddie, and the Berkeys have landed.
Give it up for Maddie and Sydney again, everyone. Maddie!
So the sisters are working their way out of their gear, and the tension of the day is over, and they're finally able to take a deep breath.
So the sisters from Red Lion Christian Academy, one a sophomore, the other a senior. That's Sydney, who's heading to UD next year. Maddie, a sophomore at Red Lion Christian Academy. You can see the wet area we are actually located at. If we opened up the shades in here, that is the view that we would see, to give you some idea of where we are located so we can hear the action and see it. You can see the umbrellas up there. Still a great crowd out there. I'm sure the rain kept some of the crowd away. Usually the largest crowds are between like 11 and 1 o'clock when people wander by because they're in their lunch hours, so they leave the buildings and come over. I'm sure the rain deterred some of that, but Jimmy and I went out there during one of the breaks, and there were a lot of people out there eating hot dogs and soft pretzels and enjoying drinks provided by TD Bank. They've created really a party atmosphere out there for the people involved. They've got a DJ. The TD Bank mascot was walking around. Just plenty of things to do for people, and saw some people dancing and just a lot of smiles. You can see them there. That's what it's all about there. As you can see the Berkey sisters kind of posing for pictures there. They came down without any problem. You can see one of them there has a GoPro in her helmet. A lot of people decide to do that. Both first-timers. Their dad did it last year. We'll see if they maybe come together as a family next year and all go down to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. 4,200 athletes competing in 19 sports year-round. The largest event coming up, Summer Games, 6 sports. Be almost 1,000 athletes and unified partners. That looks like Anthony Bernadzikowski, I believe. I know his father, Tom, and his father, Tom, has done it for several years. In fact, I think he has missed just 1 year, is not doing it this year. He's down on the ground with a camera taking pictures of Anthony. And so Anthony says he's volunteered at Special Olympics, which I know he has, and he is carrying on the tradition of his father, who has repelled several times. Tom Bernadzikowski, Anthony's father, a one-time member of the Special Olympics Delaware Board of Directors. And so Anthony is heading down slowly but surely. This is his first time. He wants to thank Tom and Ann, Rick and Laurie, Danny, Maria, and Capono for their support, helping him raise the $1,100 to repel 17 stories for Special Olympics. We asked him what his other daring or crazy activities he's been part of, and he says camping in the forest in Canada in the winter probably counts. I would count camping as counting because I am not a camper, so if you camp, that counts as a crazy activity to me. The fact that you're camping in Canada in the winter, that's got to be cold. yeah, right. Forget the life-threatening things. This will be a piece of cake coming down the side of this building.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
He's camped with the Bears up in Canada. So there he goes. He's getting to go, and now they've asked him to stop and hold his hands out for that signature picture. We call it the postcard photo. There. Now he will continue on down to to the bottom, making his way. And so Anthony is edger number 67 over the 2 days. And the Perillo father-son tandem will be next, and they probably want to come down together. So we'll see here whether they bump Richard Malin or Michael McFadden up. And, you know, this is something the technicians do a wonderful job of. You know, they're trying to balance the fact of staying on time, but at the same time, some of these people arrive and the timing doesn't work out exactly where a father and son could go together. The technicians make it work, and Special Olympics, I know, appreciates that because, you know, as we agree, and as Jeff Martin, the site safety supervisor for Over the Edge, said, is the most important thing is people leave here not only safe, but that they've enjoyed the experience, because they're the ones that if they don't come back themselves, they're going to sell the event to somebody else to come back, and they can't do that if they haven't had a good experience. So Anthony Bernadzikowski enjoying that experience. Again, we've talked about it, but a lot of you have probably just tuned in. You see the folks who are not even going over the edge. They are strapped to ropes, which are hooked up behind them to a cement structure. What they're doing now is he just unhooked the next repeller, and they'll guide that person over. You are always hooked up to a rope that is hooked up to a building, so it is literally impossible to fall off that building. Not that anybody would get close to the edge to do so, but if for some reason you did, you cannot fall off if you are properly hooked up, and they're very, very big on that. It doesn't matter who you are or why you want to be up on that roof. You are all still tethered up the same way. We saw the site safety supervisor who's been on 1 million roofs, probably a lot of them, I know, a lot taller than this one, and he is tethered up like everybody else. Christiana Care has tweeted, Dr. Jennifer LeCompte rappelled down a 17-floor building this morning in support of the Special Olympics Delaware. Hashtag awesome. So Christiana Care, thanks for tweeting out that with a nice photo of Dr. LeCompte. She's also a board member of Special Olympics Delaware supporting that. So people of all ages, all professions, all with different reasons as to why they support Special Olympics Delaware. But as we've talked about it, it is the cause and it is the mission of the cause that brings people to this event 99% of the time and brings them back. We had several people, or 3 people, Hank Tomczyk, Marianne Evans, and Danny Hall, who have all gone over all three of them, all 7 years that we have done this event. So Marianne Evans and Danny Hall have already gone over. Hank Tomczyk is set to go over probably in about half an hour, and he is the parent of a Special Olympics Delaware athlete, as is Marianne Evans. Danny Hall is a longtime supporter of the torch run. He's a captain in the Delaware State Police. Does anything you ask of him as a volunteer. As he's told me before, Special Olympics, other than his family, is the most important thing in his life. That's Anthony Bernadzikowski making his way down. He's about 5 floors into the 17 floors, 222 feet of the Brandywine Realty Trust building. Brandywine Realty Trust, one of 3 sponsors, along with TD Bank and the Newcastle County Fire Service. Supporting sponsors include Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, the Sheraton Suites, Wilmington Downtown, Delmarva Broadcasting Company, and the Delaware Rock Gym. $1,100 to be part of this great event. If you want to be part of this event next year, go to SODE.org. Click on the Over the Edge banner and go to the page then, and the link will say register for 2018. You can be part of what has become a annual event here in the city of Wilmington. This is the 7th annual Over the Edge event. That's Rich Perillo, the son. He's going over with his father, Rich, a longtime supporter of Special Olympics Delaware. We'll talk more about him when he goes over. You can see he's got that GoPro attached to his helmet. He has gone over before. This is his 3rd time going over with his father, who is going over for the 2nd year, and says he hopes he enjoys the day as much as he did last year. We've never had anybody go over for a 2nd or more time who hasn't said that it was more fun the next year, mainly because they're not as nervous going over. They know what to expect, and they have an opportunity to look around and see the view and enjoy the sights of coming down. Anthony Bernadzikowski is a first-time rappeller. His father and his stepmother have both rappelled before. and now he is doing it to carry on the tradition. It's quite a tradition a father would pass on to his son, Jimmy.
The family aspect of this thing is so cool because just today we've had aunt and niece and sisters,
Yep.
mother daughter. So we're about to have father son.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of times that will help you do it. It will help you in this time right here that Anthony's going through to finish it. And I think that's a really cool. We've noticed that through all the years we've done this.
Yeah.
That there's been a lot of family connections, or we've had mom did it one year, and sister then did it,
Right.
and then daughter then did it. So I think that's really cool that the whole family has found this as a way. And we heard earlier today, mom had done it before, daughter's now old enough,
Right.
and she did it. So
Yep. And father didn't, but father had done it before.
Right.
So it's kind of, it is kind of like sometimes it's all right, we'll raise the money or we'll support for two people to go over, and those two people change. And we've seen that too. We've had Nancy Gallagher, who was in here about an hour ago talking. She's one of them who did it the first couple years, took a couple years off for whatever reason, and came back and did it again. And so, I think it is that type of event where the thrill never goes away. Danny Hall, one of the guys I just mentioned, who's done it, one of the 3 people who has registered to do it all 7 years, scared of heights. Admittedly so. Does not like doing the event, but he believes so much in the cause that he raises the money, and he does it. In fact, one year he raised the money, and we had an intern at the time who really wanted to do it and just didn't have the financial means to do it, and he let her go in his slot, as you see. Anthony coming down, a great shot of the lever there right before it got covered up by the umbrella. That's how they pull that down and come in, and how easy that mechanism is to operate. And Anthony has landed. And so it will be the Perillos who are up next. And so they will go up here. Perillo father-son combination as Anthony has landed. And again, you can see still drizzling outside, but the weather has not impacted the pace at all, and it has not impacted the ability of the folks to rappel. And that is safety, always a number one priority. We've harped on that several times, and we've said, it is amazing. This is the first time we've ever had rain. That, I assume, is Rich Perillo, the father, on the right, because I know it's not the son. I know the son, who the son is, and it looks like they're having a little bit of fun up there, so it's probably a father-son combination. That is Rockford Park in the background, you see. And I'm not sure what that building complex is. Jimmy, don't know if you know what it is. That's I-95, and we're looking north from Center City, so it's a complex of some sort.
is that over the bridge or past the bridge, you think? Maybe we're not that far.
You mean which bridge? You mean
where are we facing?
We're looking
in this
north.
case?
We're looking north.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't be the Delaware Memorial Bridge because that's
No.
south. But I don't. You know what that might be? Is the Brandywine Mill? It could be. That's up in that area. I don't know. I'm guessing, so I'm going to stop guessing. If somebody knows, please tweet us. Hashtag Over the Edge DE. Let us know what building complex we are looking at there. We know that's 95. We know that's Rockford Park in the background there, and the tower at Rockford Park. We've seen that year after year. And obviously, we've seen that other building complex, too. We just haven't paid that closely attention to it. As the Perillo father-son tandem are up on the building, getting ready to go over. That is Rich, the son, who is going over for the 3rd time. He's a detective with the Newcastle County Police Department. He's also the fire chief of the Christiana Fire Company. Law Enforcement for Special Olympics Delaware Executive Committee member. He does a lot for Special Olympics all year round. He wants to thank the Newcastle City police officers. And actually, he's a detective with Newcastle City Police Department, not Newcastle County. FOP Lodge 1, the Newcastle County Fire Service, and especially the men and women of the Christiana Fire Company who support him in his efforts and helped him raise the $1,100 to go over for the 3rd time this year. He said the excitement and exhilaration he feels today will hopefully give himself and others an opportunity to understand what our athletes feel each day as they participate in their programs and compete in events. You can see the smile there for Rich. You can tell he's done this before. Still a little, you can always tell a little bit of nerves there. Doesn't matter how many times you've done this. He's probably done this 100 times off of buildings, either in training or real-life rescues for the fire company. But still, always, I almost would think that this is probably a little bit more different because you're thinking about it. When you're reacting as a professional firefighter or as a police officer and you have to rappel, it's reactionary. It's not a think about situation. And Anthony Bernadzikowski has landed, and he is coming in. And we're going to take a moment to talk to Anthony. And Anthony, welcome.
Thank you.
Good. How are you? John Busby along with Jimmy Smith. And I don't mean to date myself, Anthony, but I remember watching you play soccer when you were 6 years old.
Yep.
So one of us is getting old. And I look old and you don't. But anyway, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
What kind of father passes on a tradition to rappel down a building 17 stories?
A very adventurous one.
Obviously. How did this come about?
Yeah, that was my father's idea. I guess I think his back has been an issue for some years now. I think now it's finally the point where he said to pass the torch on to me, and it was a really great experience, and I'm really glad I got to do it.
Well, that's good. Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, do you think I know you have an older sister. Do you think she would ever do this, or is there any discussion about that?
Maria and her boyfriend Capono were saying she would watch. He would do it.
Oh, there you go.
So we might have another runner in the year next year.
All right,
yeah.
so that's who Capono is. We saw that you thanked Capono.
Yeah.
I assume they supported you financially at some point.
Yes.
So that was great. What was have you ever done? You went camping in Canada, and you said that must count as adventurous. And I pointed out I would count camping itself as adventurous. The fact you're doing it in the winter in Canada, and as Jimmy pointed out, you've got bears and a lot of other animals you're dealing with up in Canada. Tell us quickly how that experience came about.
That was a few friends of mine from college. We wanted to go on somewhere. We wanted to go on like some exciting big trip, and we realized we could go to another country. We could just drive. It was like only 8 hours. So we did it, and all of us were kind of all of my other friends except me were scouts, and so we all wanted to go camping and hiking and doing all that kind of stuff. What we didn't realize that this is our spring break.
Right.
So we assumed,
it'd be 95 degrees
sure,
and sunny,
of
like
course,
in Florida.
just like in Florida. Yeah, it's like Daytona Beach, right? Yeah. And instead, we were sleeping on 3 feet of snow.
I was going to say, yeah.
Right. But it was a great experience. It was we were definitely roughing it. There was when we were all riding on the highway in northern Canada, we were being passed by snowmobiles.
Right.
So it's definitely a different kind of experience.
That's funny. You see the Perillos, the father-son tandem coming down. That's Rich, the father, on the left. Rich, the son,
guys,
on the right. You were talking with them up there, I'm sure. Talking about passing on experiences, I think now that you've taken over the experience of rappelling from your father, I think you ought to send him and his wife on a camping trip in Canada
there you go.
in the middle of winter.
Reciprocate the
reciprocate the giving there. So anyway, Anthony, we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you very much.
We hope you had a great experience.
I
Thanks
did.
for supporting Special Olympics.
All
and
right.
we will look forward to seeing you and Capone. Right?
Yep,
Capona.
Capona.
Next year, coming down the side of the building. And you know what? Maybe your father will get the nerve to get up and come again.
I'm hoping he
Give
will.
him the alternative, camping in the winter in
Right.
Canada or
I'll
going
issue
over
an
the
ultimatum.
edge again
Right.
next year. So anyway. All right, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Go enjoy the rest of the day. Anthony Bernadzikowski going over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware for the first time, and apparently not the last, as you are watching the father-son duo of Richard and Richard Perillo coming down. Richard, the son, is on the right. Richard, the father, is on the left. Richard, the father, is in his second over-the-edge event. Richard, the son, in his third. Both are firefighters. One retired. That would be Rich, the father, is retired. He volunteered at the Brandywine 100 Fire Company and the Delaware Volunteer Firefighters Association. And he's involved in this in the Special Olympics because his son is. And he asked daring or crazy activities, and he said being a volunteer firefighter. And, of course, that's heroic. I don't consider that. It certainly is daring. It certainly is crazy, but it's also heroic. You can see Rich, the son, fell back there. That happens once in a while. You lose your balance, but it's still very safe coming down.
Now it's a race.
As you can see, now it's a race. Looked like the father slowed down, but now he's going to try to win there at the end.
Got him.
Looks like he locked up. Rich locked up. Now he's loose there. The lockup happens when you go a little bit too fast. It's just part of the event, and they teach you how to unlock yourself, and you continue on. We actually haven't seen many people lock up today, but when they do, they do. It's not an indication of anything other than you were going a little bit too fast, and so they
just heard one of
slow you
the
down.
either Richard, the son, or one of the techs say operator error, and I don't know what they're talking about, but they all laughed.
That's funny. That might have been why Rich, the son, when he fell over backward, not fell, bad word to use in this event, when he leaned over backwards, looked like he lost his balance there for a minute up in the saddle. So the Perillos are safely on the ground. If you're just tuning in to the Over the Edge event, we're about 3/4 of the way through. Richard Malin, Michael McFadden, Riz Gadaingan, and Roxanne Gadaingan are coming up, along with Hank Tomczyk, who will be going for the 7th time over the edge in the 7 years that we had offered this event. Hard to tell what the rain's doing. There's a couple umbrellas up. Everybody's got hoods on. A couple people without hoods and wet heads. They've given up on trying to stay covered up, I guess. So it is hard to tell exactly what it is doing if you're just tuned in and wondering how the heck it's safe for them to rappel. Father-son moment right there with the Perillos, Rich and Rich. They make the decision, the site safety supervisors on the roof, as to when the weather is deemed to be unsafe. It's been basically a steady drizzle since 12 o'clock, so almost 3 hours. And unexpected rain. Jimmy, I don't know if you looked at the forecast. Did you see rain in the forecast?
Because it was moving around. It was Monday, Tuesday, then Saturday, Sunday. At one point it was Thursday, Friday, and then that
disappeared.
Quickly went away.
Yeah.
But
and I don't think this is the nor'easter that's coming, because what we're getting right now is coming from the west.
Right.
So I assume there's still this system down in the southeast that we're going to get this weekend, which we were saying, thank goodness it didn't come early, because even though they could do it in the rain, a nor'easter storm is going to be a lot different of a rain, and also the winds are going to get up to that 25 mile per hour part there. That's Hank Tomczyk on the right. And I know that because I know Hank, and he's got the long time, the outfit that you get when you've been an edger. At least I'm pretty sure. Maybe let's wait and see. I thought that was Hank. He's got the same mustache, but then again, yeah, Richard Malin. Yeah, that is not Hank. I apologize. That is not Hank. Hank has the same mustache as you'll see when he does get up there, but. So it might be Richard Fallon or Michael McFadden. We're still waiting to get the word from up above who we have on the ropes right now. So
that is Richard Malin.
All right, so that is Richard Malin on the yellow rope. That means somebody else will be Michael McFadden. They were scheduled to go at 2:40, so about 15 minutes behind schedule here, but they're probably going to be able to catch up based on what I'm seeing here with the time remaining. Yeah,
there's some more of that flicker, and apologize for that.
It's the weather related.
Weather.
It's tough when you're running cables in the wet, but overall an excellent broadcast effort by the camera people. The camera folks have been Jimmy and I are here complaining about the weather, and we've
talking about the weather.
We've only gone outside to get free pretzels from TD Bank and free hot dogs, and there's a lot of people who are a lot wetter than we are who we give credit to. Most of them, 99% of them, volunteers. Other than the 3 over the edge folks who are part of the company who are up on the roof. So we, again, can't thank the volunteers enough for not only being here, but sticking it out through this weather here. As one of the cameramen comes in soaking wet, draped in a parka. We'll stop complaining about the rain as he comes in and dries off and warms up. That is Richard Malin and Michael McFadden. So that is Michael McFadden on the blue. We've got confirmation. And Richard Malin. Michael McFadden works at Trinity Tactical USA in Middletown. He really has no affiliation to Special Olympics, and we've talked about how most of the people that come in here know at least somebody who's involved in Special Olympics as a volunteer or a committee member or a coach or a family member. Not the case for Michael McFadden. He just knows fellow edger Roxanne Gadaingan, who's going to probably come up next. And as we said, the reason this event continues to be a steady number of people year in, year out is edgers recruiting edgers. This is his first time, and he wants to give thanks to his family and friends for their support, especially his wife Lydia and Tom Deladvich from State Farm Insurance, both people who contributed to him going over the edge. Richard Malin is retired from the Department of Veteran Affairs. He's also friends with Roxanne. It's his first rappel, so shout out to Roxanne Gadaingan, who's going to be going over. She's a parent of a Special Olympics athlete. She has recruited 2 new edgers who hopefully will be repeat edgers at one point. And she's the inspiration for Richard is going over for Roxanne and her son, John Gadaingan, a Special Olympics athlete. Now, he has done zip lining in Mexico. He's gone swimming in Canote. He's done jet skiing. He's gotten into an accident while riding on the back of a fire truck as a volunteer fireman. Wow.
Whoa.
and fishing for tuna 60 miles off the coast of Delaware. Jimmy,
that's cool.
Have you ever gone fishing that far?
I throw up.
Yeah, I'm good on
Yeah.
a dock, and I really don't enjoy the experience then. I only do it with my boys, but I have no interest in
Fishing's fun. I throw up. Though.
Yeah, no,
The
I
boats.
have no interest in going out on a boat fishing for 60 miles. You and I are not very adventurous. I think anybody who has listened
like
to this
the same
entire
person.
broadcast
Yeah.
has determined that the two
Luckily,
people,
this is exciting. Otherwise, we're boring.
that the two people talking about all these adventures are not very adventurous themselves. Anyway, you are tuned in. I'm John Busby along with Jimmy Smith. We are approaching what will probably be the last hour and a half of this 8-hour broadcast Over the Edge for Special Olympics Delaware, the 7th annual event, 4th time we've done the live stream. 3 great different camera angles that Jimmy Smith, the producer of this event, has put together, and the opportunity. We want to thank Showworks also. They provided this equipment and enabled us to put together this broadcast. The first time we've brought in different pieces to what I call the grand puzzle of this live stream broadcast, and it's worked out pretty well. We're pleased with it. Hope you are too. And we know the Edgers will enjoy watching this experience. When they sit back, we'll be putting it up on YouTube. It'll stay up there forever, probably early next week, and they'll be able to watch it. If you're watching it now, you can watch it with them. Don't forget, give them shout-outs if you want to, either on the page themselves or, which we've got one, Jimmy said. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, Vicky S. Shouted out Tammy Wilson from a couple hours ago. And then Aunt Shawnee is proud of both Maddie and Sydney, the Berkeys, who finished as a pair not too long ago.
There you go. Maybe the aunt will join the nieces next year and go down. We've had a couple aunt and nieces go down today, so maybe that will happen again. On your right is Michael McFadden, and on your left is Richard Malin, both first-time rappellers, friends through Roxanne Gadaingan, who is the mother of a Special Olympics athlete, John Gadaingan. They're about halfway down there. Again, you can see the drips on the camera lens, and that's a reality of having to face a camera up to the side of the building, but we enjoy giving you this broadcast because even though you can't technically see who these people are other than seeing their names on the screen and us telling you who they are, it gives you an idea of what the view is like from the bottom. So you're obviously probably not here if you're watching this, although maybe you are on your phone. But if you were here, that's the exact view you would have from down sitting in the bleachers. This camera is actually located directly at the back of the bleacher. It's not across the street. It's on the same side that this building is, and it's set up right behind the bleachers. So if you were sitting in the row of the bleachers, that is exactly what you would see as Richard Malin on the left and Michael McFadden on the right come down. The Gadainans, Riz, and Roxanne should be coming down next. I think it's going to be a mother-daughter combination based on what I see here. Roxanne, the parent of a Special Olympics athlete, Riz, a student at the University of Delaware. So we will clarify that for you as we look into the bios. Following them will be Hank Tomczyk, who has gone all 7 years that this event has been offered. Also the father of a Special Olympics athlete, his son Ziggy Tomczyk, a longtime athlete in Special Olympics Delaware, as we are in the home stretch of what has been a 6+ hour broadcast so far. John Busby along with Jimmy Smith, and we've enjoyed bringing you all the action, whether you've been tuned in for a while or just tuned in here. We appreciate that. Our numbers, we're hoping to reach 3,000 viewers. Not sure where we're at right now. We're getting close. We are at 2,400, Jimmy said. So we certainly appreciate that. We say we put that number 3,000 out there because that's what we had last year. But at the same time, we're happy and thrilled that 2,400 people have tuned in to the broadcast. And it's something that we added to this event. As you can see, they're landing there. That is Michael McFadden, who has landed first between the duo. A first-time edger seemed to come down with no problems. It kind of looks to me, Jimmy, like the rain has let up a little bit. Even though you can see it on the camera lens, you don't see it puddling at the bottom like we did earlier.
Yeah, we never really had too much of a puddle, and yeah, it's getting a little clear, and that's what you want. You want to kind of take out some of the environmental stuff for the edgers because that's worrisome up there if things are wet.
And so that is Richard Malin, who is making his way down. And again, they were scheduled to rappel a little after 2:45, so they're pretty much right on schedule here, maybe 10 minutes or so behind. And that's not bad considering the weather conditions that they've had. We haven't had any official breaks for weather, but as we talked about about an hour ago, whenever there's weather like this, especially like it seems in Delaware, traffic stops, things get confusing. people who are arriving. We've had a lot of first-time edgers in these last 2 hours, and so people are coming to a place where they've probably never been before. And even though they're told, here's where you can park, here's the situation. I know myself, and I've been coming to this building. I've probably been to this building now 30 times between doing the event itself, coming to meetings, coming to check out the internet, wireless strength, all that. I still get nervous driving down the city of Wilmington, like I don't know what I'm doing, because a lot of times I don't. I've been beeped at every time I've come down Delaware Avenue for not going fast enough or turning in at the last minute.
How do you do in Philly?
Yeah, I don't go to Philly. That's how I do it in Philly. I go to the ball games. That's about as far as I go. One exit and 200 yards, and you're there.
Yeah, but on the way out, it's
that gets tricky. You're right. Yeah, that is tricky. But then it's all the crazy people.
Hear that, Philly? John Busby doesn't like to drive
in the city, or any city for that matter. So, all right. So the next two are down. Richard Malin has landed, right? And so he is down. And so, based on the order, it should be the Gadaingan who recruited those last two, recruited Richard and Michael. And again, if you're sitting there, there are, I believe, the Gadaingan. I'm going to say that is probably Riz on the right and Roxanne on the left, even though we don't have that official. With all due respect to Roxanne, Riz looks like she's the student at the University of Delaware. I believe that is Riz right there. We can't see her name badge just like you can't as you're watching this. She's getting tethered up there. You can see the radio there if you're just tuning in and you wonder how can she use a radio if she's got both hands on the rope. She doesn't need to use the radio with her hands. It's an open mic basically if she talks, and that is Roxanne there. So I was wrong about that. That's why we usually wait for the official. It is Roxanne on the yellow and it is Riz on the blue. So Roxanne is the parent of a Special Olympics athlete. I guess all I did, Jimmy, was pay her a compliment, right? By saying her name wrong. I basically said she looked like a college student.
That's right. So. And I think she'll take that when she watches it back.
She can email and thank me when she hears the broadcast. And that is, again, we're going to assume that's Riz because they would want to go down together. But until we see that officially, we had only seen Roxanne up until that point. It is Riz. We got the official word in the blue. So Riz is in the blue. Roxanne is in the yellow. So pull their bios up and see. Roxanne is a sales manager for Red Roof Inn and Suites and owner of RG Promotions. She's a proud parent, and she works with Special Olympics Delaware for housing for the athletes and parents during the year when we have events on campus. A lot of folks stay at the Red Roof Inn. She is I'm going to assume a second-time edger because she says she is a repeat edger. I'm hoping this year to take a look around more and enjoy with my daughter rather than just concentrating on getting to the ground. So we have concern that Riz, right there that you see in your picture now, she is the daughter of Roxanne. Riz is a student at the University of Delaware, even though I thought Roxanne looked young enough to be a student at the University of Delaware. They ride motorcycles, and my daughter and I will be going skydiving for my 50th birthday. So not only does Roxanne look like a University of Delaware student, Jimmy, she's my age.
She's acting like
I haven't looked that young in 40 years. And anyway, enough about that. But I'm glad I paid her a compliment rather than the other way around, certainly. But Roxanne going over the edge, riding motorcycles, going skydiving. She wants to thank Blue Earl Brewing Company. These are all her financial supporters. SSN Hotel Management, Iron Hill Brewery, Newark, Friendly's Restaurant on 896, friends and families that have been so supportive, my daughter who is so strong and willing to do the crazy stuff with me, and Chaz, who is my biggest cheerleader. Not sure who Chaz is, and we're not going to guess. Riz is a senior at the University of Delaware. She is the sister of John Gadaingan, obviously the Special Olympics athlete who is Roxanne's son. This is actually Riz's second year also, and she's looking forward to waving to the people inside the building. And that's funny that she said that. She's the first person that's brought that up, that we've talked about there are people inside the building who wave at you, and they have a constant flow of people coming down here. So we always joke that there's probably not a lot of work getting done inside the building here, especially on the north side of the building, which is where they are rappelling down. But the first time you go down, it's probably safe to say you're not letting go of anything to wave to anybody. And so they're both looking forward to waving to the people there. So Riz and Roxanne Gadaingan are going down. That is Riz on the right as you look up, Roxanne on the left. And there seems to be less raindrops on the lens than there's been in a while, so that's a good thing for the weather. I haven't pulled up the radar here in a while, so
Let's refresh
we'll see
that
what
because
it's
that
doing.
doesn't look good.
Yeah, well, that was a while ago. I do know that. So we'll pull it up.
It was
here.
moving. I mean,
It
I
was,
know it was gonna
and there's not
make it-
weather behind it,
Yeah.
so that was the good thing. Once it does stop,
An earlier look at it had it passing through by the time we would complete.
right.
I
So the
think
ride home
that's-
is going to be rain-free.
I hope so. Mine's a walk.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're next door at the Sheraton, a dry walk. So we'll see that. Don't forget, if you're tweeting on social media, use hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE so that we can let the people know on the live broadcast that you're supporting them. Justin Malin just tweeted, "Way to go, Dad." The Richard Malin, who went over a few minutes ago. And so we'll make sure, thank you, Justin, for tweeting that. Again, way to go, Dad, going over the edge. Richard Malin went a little bit ago. And we're still waiting for the forecast to come up here. And Roxanne and Riz are on the way down.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What I'm seeing, not looking at a radar, but just looking at times and percentages. 4 o'clock, which is what we're coming up on.
Right.
60%. 5 o'clock, 70%. So probably the hardest when we're finishing up.
Yeah, we still got rain.
We're most
coming,
likely.
so.
I don't want to say hardest. Most
Right.
likely.
But you know what? The thing is, the color of green, which dictates how hard the rain is the same as it was 3 hours ago when we've been going through this. So again, the good news is it looks like we're going to be able to get through this event without having to delay at all, and certainly will not have to postpone until tomorrow, which is always one of the options. We've never had rain here in Delaware. We've been very fortunate of that. And so we are happy about that. And even though we are getting rain today, it's not enough of a rain to risk the safety of the edgers, which is always a top priority for the safety team, the Over the Edge here. They have the final say. It's not the Special Olympics folks. It's not the volunteers. And actually, there's one person, Jeff Martin, who is the site safety supervisor for Over the Edge USA. And it is his call, anything that happens here at this event involving the actual folks going over the edge, from when they sign in to when they get down on the bottom, is his call, no matter what that situation might be. So again, up on the ropes on the right is Riz Gadaingan. On the left is Roxanne Gadaingan making their way down the 300 Delaware Avenue building, 17 stories, 222 feet on their way down here, all to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. 4,200 athletes who compete in Special Olympics year-round in 19 sports. Again, social media is #OverTheEdgeDE. You can also make a comment on the website page directly on the URL. There you see the folks that are on deck getting ready to come next. They've just done their short training session. That's the Delaware River you see in the background. So a spectacular view from the top. If you do this event, you go up there 17 stories. I've not only done the event, but I've gone up and kind of walked around the building when we first decided we were going to do this event. And it really is, the views up there are spectacular. Even if you're scared of heights, you can stay far enough away where you can enjoy the view, where it's basically what you're looking at now. You're not really looking over and down. You're getting more of an opportunity to see all the things that are around there. So finishing up are Riz and Roxanne Gadaingan. They are about halfway through there. They're probably at about that 10th floor, which is where they check in. And so there's always a crowd of people there, people who have already gone down and have taken their stuff back up, and people who are getting ready to go down, as well as volunteers. And so it's a great place. You can see maybe waving at some of the people inside as they make their way down. We are down to less than 20 people to go. In fact, at a quick glance, we have about 15 left to go, assuming that they are all here once the Gadaingans hit the bottom floor. Shouldn't say hit, once they land softly, as everybody has done so
There's
far.
another one of those words that it's okay to use, but it's worrisome.
That's what we've got to do next year. We have to have a word
Just
board
a word,
of words,
we're
words
avoiding.
that we shouldn't be using when we do it. We say that in jest because this is one of the safest fundraising events you can do. Nobody's ever gotten hurt anywhere in North America coming down over the edge. And so it's one of those things that gives people a lot of confidence when they do it, that they are in good hands. We had 8 media members go over, actually 7 media members, 1 Special Olympics staff member who went over yesterday. I want to thank Jazz from Eagle 97.7, Matt Monks and Rob Petrie from 105.9, Shelby Vaccaro from WDEL, Brittany Horn from the News Journal, and Ben Heck from the Sussex County Post, and Brian Sosha from the Social Network on WSDW. He's actually probably on the air right now. All of them have done a lot of tweeting about their experience, done some pictures and video, and so if you get a chance, look them up and see that. If you just follow hashtag Over the Edge DE, you'll see the different things that they've been posting throughout the day about their experience yesterday and what a great time they had doing it. And again, if you're sitting there thinking, geez, I'd love to support the cause, as you watch the Gadaingans, the mother-daughter combination, that's the mother, Roxanne on the left, Riz on the right, stopped and waved to the crowd, both rappelling for the second time. If you don't want to be part of Over the Edge, maybe you could be the person who challenges somebody to do it. Or I don't think for some people it's even a challenge. I think they want to do it. Maybe the only deterrent is the money that they would have to raise to do it. And so it's an opportunity for you to be a supporter by helping raise the money. Not necessarily writing them the check for $1,100, but putting together an event, maybe a fundraiser, having a restaurant donate a percentage of money, that type of thing, to get somebody to support Special Olympics. Because remember, it doesn't matter who goes over. The support and the money, the $1,100, all goes to the same great cause, the 4,200 athletes here in Special Olympics Delaware. Every single dime we raise today stays right here. This event's raised almost $760,000 to date. It's safe to say it will raise another $100,000 today. That'll bring that total up over the $850,000 mark. And there is the mother-daughter duo of Riz and Roxanne Gadaingan, and I'm hoping they'll stop in to chat about their experience a second time around. It's always fun talking to first-timers. I always enjoy talking to second-timers as well to find out the difference between the first time and the second time, especially the questions today of the different tests that they send you through up at the top of the roof to get used to the experience of that feeling of only having the rope supporting you, as well as the weather and how that's impacted. And everybody we've talked to has said the weather has not impacted them at all, whether they've been a first-timer or doing it for the second time. A couple people literally have said it's no different than doing it when it's not raining. And
yeah, we heard worries about feet slipping on the glass and so on and so forth, but no reports of such things.
No, everybody's gone down without a hitch. That is Hank Tomczyk on the left. I do know that is Hank.
And that's Kyle Figs on the right.
There you go. I told you Hank had that gray mustache, and that is Kyle Figs. So actually he's from Discover Card. He's a 320 person, so he's going down right on time. Hank Tomczyk, as we mentioned, the father of a Special Olympics athlete. His son is Ziggy Tomczyk, and he's been competing for as long as I can remember. And Hank has done this every single year. So like Marianne Evans, when you do the math, and like Danny Hall, and you talk about raising $1,100 for 7 years, and I know in all three of their situations they've raised more than the required amount. And so it's safe to say just between the three of them, Danny Hall, Hank Tomczyk, and Marianne Evans, they have probably raised more than $25,000 for Special Olympics Delaware. Just the three of them. Talk about the impact and making a difference. That's pretty impressive.
That's that family mentality, and that's a lot of money and a lot of helpful dollars that just three people were able to contribute.
And it's just that perseverance to do it year after year. And, the experience probably gets a little easier, a little less nerve-wracking every year, although I can't help to think as Hank stands up there and basically if he lets go, he's going backwards. Again, he's going to be caught because he's tethered up. They don't let you near that place if you're not safety. But that's the feeling you have when you're up there. It's like, geez, all right, my next step is to put complete trust in the rope here, and he will get ready to do that. And you can see we've been watching this roof view all day, and we've watched the methods that they go through, the steps that they take, these technicians, and it's the same. They are treating Hank Tomczyk as if he is a first-time edger, even though he's done this now for 7 times, and that's why they have a 100% safety rate.
Yeah, and I know Hank gets it because this is times 7. But some people are like, yeah. Oh, okay, I'm going to go.
Yep.
But you can't be that way because that's what those guys
No.
are there to do.
And that's when things start to go wrong. And that's
Yeah.
why Over the Edge has a perfect safety record, and why a lot of people who you would think would never do this, including myself, do it, because it's as safe as it can be. As scary as it might be, it's as safe an event as you're going to do. So Hank Tomczyk on the left and Kyle Figs on the right. So that means Kyle is on the yellow rope and Hank is on the blue rope as they get ready to head down here, as we are 6.5 hours into today's broadcast of the 2017 Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympic Delaware. It's been an overcast day all day. In the morning it was actually a little chilly, and then it started drizzling around 12 o'clock, and it's been a steady drizzle. It kind of looks like it stopped, or at least isn't as steady as it's been. In the pictures that we're watching here on the screens that we have here, we've got 3 large computer screens. This camera angle you're looking at now is from the ground. It's actually located right behind the bleachers where most of the people are sitting. And so this is what you would be looking at if you were here live. It's one of the reasons I like this angle, because this gives you the experience. I've gone out and looked up several times, and this is what you see coming down, kind of like 2 dots until people get closer. On your right, that's Hank Tomczyk, the 7-year veteran, and Kyle Figs is on the left heading down there. So cutting closer here, we're almost to within 12 people or so to go down, and what's been a great day. And Jimmy, we always talk about it, when we start out at 8:45 getting ready to go on the air, and the first thing we think about is, okay, we got to talk for 8 hours. But it always seems to go faster than it does. And I think it's the mix of stories, I think it's the mix of situations, and I think it's the mix of how people come down. It gives us different things to talk about, and as well as I always enjoy the people that stop by to talk to us. That's always,
I think that's
breaks
the
it up as
coolest
well.
thing to hear.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not only it's 8 hours of broadcast, but it's 8 hours of the same thing with minimal movement, and there's not a lot of talk about. I mean, we're talking about talk about Hank here.
Right.
He just kind of spun into the building. I think he may be at the 10th floor there.
Yeah, might have
and
done
he's
it on
playing
purpose.
around.
Make it a little exciting for yourself at 7 years. There he goes, spins back around.
So yeah, it makes things go by quickly. The rain was something to talk about. There's storylines every year.
Yeah, and some of the storylines we don't learn about. We've had
Yeah.
2 breast cancer, one a survivor, one going through stage 4 cancer right now, who repelled earlier, and basically both said the same thing. They realize how short life is, and there's no reason not to do something like this if they really want to do it. And so sometimes we get the stories in writing. Sometimes we don't hear about the stories till they walk in the door here and they tell us what those stories are, and that kind of makes it interesting as well. 35% of the people, so you can do the math. I'm going to say, out of the 79 edgers going today, that would mean about 25 or 26 of them have done it before. And that means there's, whatever the math is, 40 plus who have not done it before, 50 plus, I guess. And so that's exciting. We just hope that those who have stopped in here and said they can't wait to do it again next year, come back and do it again next year, because that's what keeps an event like this going. It's not the same people who come back year in and year out, because obviously there's going to be some attrition. Not everybody is a Hank Tomczyk or a Marianne Evans or a Danny Hall that has done it now every year that it's been offered, and I'm sure all 3 of them will come back and do it again next year. It's the people who, come the first year and come back for the second year, and if they have to skip the 3rd year, they come back for year number 4, or what would be their 3rd year, 4 years later. And so that's really what keeps an event like this coming. As you can see, Kyle Figs coming down as well. Hank Tomczyk on his way. We've talked about him and what he's been able to do for Special Olympics Delaware. Kyle Figs getting ready to land as well. We don't have any bio on Kyle. We apologize for that. We ask for him. Most we get, as you've noticed, and some we do not. And so we do not have any on Kyle. So Kyle Figs has landed, as has Hank Tomczyk for the 7th time. If you're just tuning in and you're wondering who's left to go, to make sure you didn't miss somebody, we have Anthony Cafaro, Rob Garvey, Christy Cerminaro, Jim Long, Jackson Rosembert, Joe Hayes, Steve Cason, Cassandra Neumann, Brian Biggs, Chuck Dixon, and Christian Plack Sr., all set to go down. 3 of those folks, Jim Long, Cassandra Newman, and Chuck Dixon, have gone above and beyond the $1,100 and raised the $1,500, so they'll get a special engraved plaque with that postcard shot picture that people get up on the roof, stretched out over the background of the city behind you with your arms out to your side. It is a very cool shot, and usually with a big smile on their face, and so that is a neat photo to have. And you can see they're loading up the next couple of folks, getting them ready to go.
Looks like Anthony Cafaro.
All right, so that is Anthony Cafaro. He is from Discover Card, so he is on blue. And we'll see he's got two colleagues. Kyle Figgs was one of them from Discover who just landed, and Rob Garvey and Christy Cerminaro are the other two who are from Discover Card. We will see if one of the two of them goes with them. We'd almost have to assume that they would, but we will see. And we do not have bio information on any of these 3-4 people from Discover, other than the fact that they are from Discover. So that will be why we don't know much about them as they get ready to rappel down there. You can see the duo there, so it's safe to say that that is not Christy Cerminaro on the right. So without assuming, but we will assume that is Rob Garvey. We have received official word that is Rob Garvey on the yellow rope. So Anthony Cafaro on your left, Rob Garvey on your right, getting ready to rappel down the 300 Delaware Avenue building in Wilmington. 17 stories. If you know the city of Wilmington, the view you see there, that's I-95. And won't surprise you that there's traffic on I-95. And it's not even rush hour, but that is Delaware for you. And the Rockford Park in the far background, that is the Rockford Tower. We still have not had anybody let us know or figured out what the complex is in between. We were thinking maybe it's the Brandywine Mill. Might be that Wanamaker, what used to be Wanamaker's. That could be up in that area around there. Not really sure what that is, but if anybody knows, send us a tweet and use hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE. And Jimmy will have to make a note to find out what that complex is next year.
Yeah, for next year.
Could be the old Wanamaker's building. You wouldn't know where that is, Jimmy, because I went there as a kid back in the 70s. Used to be a big trip. It was before the Christiana Mall. If you lived in New Jersey, which I did, you came to Delaware for the tax-free shopping, and you went to Wanamaker's. And you swung the teddy bear on the swing, one of my favorite childhood memories. And if we behaved, we got the homemade sugar cookies on the way out the door. So it's one of those memories. And my mom always smiles, speaking of moms and Mother's Day, when I relive that story there. So it might be the Wanamaker's building, which is now an office complex. But that could be the Wanamaker's building there. So Anthony Cafaro on your left and Rob Garvey on your right are getting ready to go over the edge, and you can see the postcard pose there by Rob Garvey, and he's ready to begin his descent. Anthony Cafaro is in that situation as well. And sure, bring them in. We got some people who have knocked and coming in. Have a seat right there. And have a seat there. And this looks like Riz and Roxanne. And who else we have here? Richard and Michael, right? All right. Richard, or you're Richard? There you go. Richard, let's talk to you first. Your first time doing this, correct?
Yes, first time.
First time, and you got roped into doing this by Roxanne.
Roxanne,
I'll apologize, but it's probably a good thing you'll take as a compliment. I refer to you as the student at the University of Delaware. We hadn't been told, and it's not because you weren't in the picture yet. So here's how it, and you'll see it when you watch the replay. Roxanne, you were in the photo, and in the picture of the screen that we're watching here, and we hadn't been told who was who yet. And I said, well, that's got to be Roxanne because she looks like she's a student at the University of Delaware.
Just tell him thank you so he can feel okay.
And then as we start reading through your bio of what you're going to do for your 50th birthday, we're even more amazed that you're 50 because I'm 50 and I haven't looked as young as you since I was 15. So take it as a compliment. As I said, I've got to mix it up there. And anyway, you recruited 2 people to go for the first time, right? What was the experience like for your first time?
It was fantastic.
Put that mic a little bit closer.
It was fantastic. At the beginning, you little butterflies, but after you get over there and down over that first ledge, then
It's okay.
It's fine. Yeah,
All right.
it's
Now,
just-
how did she convince you to do this?
we were having a few beers in Blue Earl Brewery one night, and she says, "Come on, you need to sign up." So do this with me. So I said, "Okay." And then I don't know how she recruited Mike.
Mike, here, you take the microphone there and talk in there, Mike. Mike, also a first-timer, Michael McFadden.
Yes.
And
I think I've recruited myself. I just met Roxanne for the first time that night. She was talking to a couple buddies of mine about it. And I just kind of plugged myself into the conversation and said, how do I get involved?
So, Roxanne, the moral of the story, I'll let you take the mic here, is you need to continue to hang out at restaurants and bars and recruit people to be part of this organization. We'll be able
It's
to
amazing
add a
what
third
you can do
row.
after a couple beers.
Yeah, so hold that a little bit closer there. You're a mom of a Special Olympics athlete, John,
I
who
am.
I've watched perform. And talk about how Special Olympics has changed John's life and your family's life over the years.
Yeah, it gives him a sense of teamwork, and he seems to really look forward to it. And he gets his medal, and he seems very proud of it when he comes home. And Special Olympics has always been very supportive, and we try to be as supportive as well.
And you're going to go skydiving for your 50th?
It may be sooner.
Yeah? Are you taking these two guys with you? I know your daughter's going with you.
He's actually going to be the instigator on this one.
Okay. So
Mike
he's gonna
is,
go with you. All right. Riz, I'll let you take the microphone here first. And first I'll say you also look like you're in college, so that's a compliment also. Like I said, we weren't comparing the two of you when I made that comment, trust me.
Oh, thank you.
Your second year for you doing this?
Yes.
Are you as adventurous as your mom, or you do it just so mom doesn't have to do it by herself?
I think I'm more adventurous than her. I'm support.
So are you going to go skydiving also?
Yes.
All right. Now, so year number 2 done, year number 2, near year one for each other. You think all 4 of you will be back next year? As far as you know?
I would definitely do it.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so we'll expect 4 more of you and see if you can recruit 2 more people to come with you, hanging out in those bars and the restaurants, go around and get people to come out. So, but thank you for being part of the event. We appreciate that. Among the 4 of you, you helped raise $4,500 for Special Olympics Delaware. That's like one of our sponsors for an event. So congratulations and thank you to all 4 of you for what you do. And we'll see you at Summer Games. So, all right, so that is the Gadaingan gang, Riz and Roxanne and Richard Malin and Michael McFadden. 2 of them going over for the first time, the other 2 for the second time. And again, Jimmy, we talk about the financial impact this has, and we talked about those folks who did it for 7 years and how they've raised X number of dollars. Those 4 people just raised $4,400 for Special Olympics Delaware in an event that took them less than 10 minutes to do.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you kind of heard how they were, I don't want to say passively involved, but they were kind of sucked into it. And that's just kind of Roxanne has that personality
right.
where she could really sell it.
You're not going to say no.
Right. You talk about doing this and then becoming an ambassador for it, and that's what happens. That's what comes of this is you bring a friend, you bring 2, and then there's 4 of you, and then you make a $4,400, $4,500, $6,000 impact. Yep. And every year it'll continue to grow, and then you're talking about making a huge financial impact to a great organization.
Yeah, so, if those 4 continue to do it next year, it's close to 10,000, then 15,000, and it just keeps multiplying. Anthony Cafaro and Rob Garvey, both from Discover, have landed, and we are down to 9 people left to go over the edge for Special Olympics. 9 to go. It looks like the rain has basically stopped, at least from
where we're sitting.
Where we're sitting here under cover in the climate-controlled atmosphere. But you only see an umbrella here or there. You don't see many hoods. No. You see cameras out and unprotected, and so that's usually an indication as well. And so it looks like we're going to get through this thing here in the next hour or so and get it all wrapped up for you here. This is the 7th annual Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics. As you can see, the next 2 folks are getting what I call loaded in, and since 4 of the next 5 people scheduled to go are guys, I'm going to assume that's Christy Cerminaro on the left, and that would make sense because all the Discover card people, she's the 3rd of the 4 left to go, so that would make sense. And then we will wait and get the official signal. That is Jim Long on the right, so that is Jim Long on the yellow and Christy Cerminaro on the blue. And Jim works for Johnson Controls. As I mentioned, we don't have any bio. We've only got looks like 4 bios left for the 9 people that are here to go. So we can't tell you much about either of these folks other than we appreciate them supporting this great cause as they get ready to rappel 17 stories, 222 feet. As they do that, let's talk about next year. This event has become a traditional second Thursday in the month of May event. Next year, that is May 10th. They've already opened up the online registration for this, so if you're watching the live stream and you're thinking, I'm doing this next year, we've learned the best way for you to commit to yourself to do this. Kind of like one of those New Year's resolutions that lasts for about 3 days and you go back to eating the chocolate or having a beer once in a while, that type of thing. If you get signed up today, put down the $50 deposit, you've got 365 days to raise the other $1,050. And you'll be amazed how simple it is to do, especially if you give yourself that amount of time. If you tell people, hey, I'm doing this, rappelling 17 stories, all for Special Olympics Delaware, won't you support my cause? You know, you get $10 here, $10 there, maybe somebody throws you a $50 once in a while, and all of a sudden you've got at least the $1,100, if not more. We're up to 2,500 people who have tuned into this live stream, so we are very excited about that. The number of people that we have reached who have tuned in, most likely to watch somebody they know go over the edge by pulling on the lever. That's a great shot there, great camera angle of that lever. You can see as she pushes it down and she disappears out of the camera. There she goes, and that's all it is. It's a slight pull. For those of you, anybody who rappelled the first couple years who haven't done it since then, and you're wondering, geez, why doesn't she have to squeeze? Well, they did away with that mechanism, and they've created a much easier, less stamina required, less strength required in the forearms of pulling that mechanism down and gently going slow down.
Getting close to the end here. So thank you for tuning in our final, probably, what, an hour?
I would think an hour, maybe less. Yeah, it depends on how quickly they get. You know, at this point, what it becomes is everybody's here. So even the last two people scheduled are Chuck Dixon and Christian Plack. They are scheduled to rappel. The last one is scheduled for 4:30. They asked people to be here an hour before they're scheduled to go down. And so we know that Christian Plack should be in the building, and that means he is up going through the process. And as you've noticed here, if you've tuned in for the last hour or so, it's been a steady stream of people coming down. Even the one time where one person came down by himself, it's because all the people following him wanted to go down in pairs, which we understand and appreciate the technicians working with them to make that happen. You know, you raise that money, you request to go down with somebody to make it more fun, and Special Olympics does everything it can to try to make that happen. And so from this point on, my guess is, and of course I'll probably jinx it now, we're going to have a situation where as soon as these two land, the next two are going to be loaded and ready to go. And so it really, whether it's an hour left or an hour and 15 minutes, is going to depend, or maybe less, it's going to depend on how quickly the people on the side of the building come down to enable the next few to get loaded up. But again, we're not in any rush, certainly, and the people doing the event are not in any rush. Nobody's going home tonight. Everybody's staying here, including you, Jimmy, in town, and the Edgers all spend the night tonight and either fly out or drive home tomorrow. And so quite an event that this is when you think about the amount of work that goes into it because of the safety that's required for this event. You know, we talk about the polar bear plunge, we talk about the truck convoy, we talk about the ride to the tide, and certainly there are safety aspects for that. But when you literally this is the only fundraiser Special Olympics does where we bring in an outside company to run the fundraiser. We have committees and we have Delaware organizations that often help us with our other fundraisers, but this is the only fundraiser where a company is hired to come in from the outside and put together the technical aspects of this event with the Special Olympics staff and volunteers taking care of the surrounding aspects of the event. And of course, the corporate supporters, TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, Newcastle County Fire Service, all contributing to this event in one way or another. And also a chance to thank our supporting sponsors, Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, the Sheraton Suites right next door here in downtown Wilmington, Delmarva Broadcasting Company, and the Delaware Rock Gym, where our edgers had an opportunity, whether you were a first-time edger or a 7-time edger, to go and experience rock climbing completely free of charge. As you can see coming down on the blue rope there, that is Christy Cerminaro. She is at that point where you get to a story away. That's the second story. And they pull you away from the building so you don't have to navigate the little ledge that is there. And I can tell you from having done this event a couple years ago, it's a nice feeling to not have to figure out how to get your feet on and get over that, especially after you've just spent 16 stories lowering yourself, probably with a little bit of nerves. There at the end, basically all you have to do is pull, and they do the rest. And right behind Christy is Jim Long, who works for Johnson Controls, Christy Cerminaro, who works for Discover. They have landed, and that officially means we have 7 rappellers left to go here in the 2017 Over the Edge event for Special Olympics Delaware. We thank you for tuning in. More than 2,500 individuals have tuned in at some point today. This live stream will be available for replay. We'll have the links on the Special Olympics Delaware website early next week. The same with photo galleries. They will be posted sometime next week. How that works is every photographer here is a volunteer, and they will literally download thousands of pictures that will then be somehow sorted and kind of worked through so that you don't, our edgers don't have to look through thousands of pictures to find themselves. They're literally sorted by time. So if you know you rappelled between 9 and 11, you're only looking through 20 people to find yourself, not 79 or 87 people counting the media day. And so our volunteer photographers do a wonderful job with that. And Ruth Coughlin, the staff member of Special Olympics who oversees the videography and the photography of this event and does all the final sorting and organizing to make it as easy as possible for our edgers. Still to come, Jackson Rosembert, Joe Hayes, Steve Cason, Cassandra Neumann, Brian Biggs, Chuck Dixon, and Christian Plack, who are all going to still rappel the 17 stories, 222 feet down the side of this 300 Delaware Avenue building in Wilmington. If you want to give a shout out on social media, on Twitter or Instagram, or leave a message on the page that you see there on the internet, just do so, and we will try to include it in the broadcast so that when whoever you're giving the shout out to watches the replay, they will hear your support of them. Just please use hashtag #OverTheEdgeDE when you do that. So Joe Hayes is in the yellow. Jackson Rosembert is in the blue. So Joe Hayes is in the yellow. That is that him? I can't tell. I don't see the color of the rope there. I think he's on the blue rope, so that would be Jackson Rosembert. So that is Jackson Rosembert going down. He's a site security supervisor from Brandywine Realty Trust. You've heard a couple TD Bank people go down. We've had people from the Newcastle County Fire Services, the second sponsor, come down. The third sponsor, Brandywine Realty Trust. This is a member of their staff going down. And just to reiterate, just like with Special Olympics athlete Anthony Borragini, who went down about 12 o'clock, so almost 4 hours ago now, he had to raise the $1,100 to do this. All of the sponsor employees who are part of this event have also raised the money to do this. So this is Jackson Rosembert. He works for Brandywine Realty Trust, the building that we are in that is donated for our use today. He somehow raised, we don't know how, $1,100 to be part of this event, and that is Joe Hayes, who you can see is just getting ready to step over the edge. He has stepped over. He's going to do the postcard pose there with the hands out, and he is a process operator at Naramco Incorporated and a volunteer for Special Olympics. We do actually have a bio for Joe. He referees at the Fall Soccer Festival. That's the fall event at St. Andrew's School, where we have a long-distance running event. We have flag football, we have volleyball, and we have soccer. And so Joe Hayes is part of that. This is his second year going over the edge. He's looking forward to feeling more relaxed and a smoother descent. Maybe he locked up a couple times on his way down as Jackson Rosembert has taken the first step, and there is his postcard pose, hands out with the Rockford Tower in the background. Joe would like to thank Ann Struzowski, Leo Dohan, Chris Close, Yagnish Patel, Amanda Sumner, and Justine Schenk for organizing their department participation. John Lasco's John R. and O. Kim Anderson, Yen, Jackie, Nick, Yvonne, Jean, Emily, Bob C., Wesley, and the rest of his co-workers, his wife Jeanette, and kids, Andrew, Patrick, and Ashleen, all supporting Joe Hayes going over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware. And so that is Joe on the left, Jackson Rosembert on the right. 2 of, 7 edgers we have going over the edge. And it looks like we are basically back on schedule for the most part. Joe Hayes was scheduled to go over at 3:40. It's 3:45 according to my clock, and he's already a couple minutes into his rappel. So Jackson Rosembert and Joe Hayes, as we are in the single digits of rappellers left to go over the edge in this 7th annual Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. We hope to have a numbers total for you. We know that 87 edgers will have gone, counting the 7 media members and 1 Special Olympics Delaware staff member that went over yesterday. And we are anticipating raising at least $100,000, which has been the amount raised each of the years we've done it, which is more than the average that is raised by Special Olympics programs across the country who do this event. If you're just tuning in, this is the 210th event that Over the Edge has done just for Special Olympics programs around the country. They've raised more than $20 million, or helped raise more than $20 million for those events. The events average almost $96,000 per event. And as I said, here in Delaware, we have averaged more than $100,000 a year. $758,000 the 6 years has raised. And so this year we'll put the amount over $850,000. As you can see, Jackson Rosembert about 3/4 of the way down. This is the view you would see outside from the street. Looking up from behind the bleacher, it's one of the camera angles up there. And so it's really, we call it a live stream. This is the live shot you would see if you were standing outside. Looks like the drizzle has subsided. I don't know if it's completely subsided, but now Mark Wise, who stepped in here, is shaking his head no. He's one of the ones who has gutted it out outside since 9 o'clock this morning, when it was chillier than everybody expected, and then when the rain arrived that nobody expected as well. Caught everybody off guard, but fortunately everybody has stood in there and made sure that this event has gone off without a hitch. We've stayed right on time, had a couple delays, but not because of weather. But the crew has done a tremendous job of keeping things moving here to get the event in today without any postponements, and so people's schedules tonight will be on schedule. If you just tuned in, don't forget, if you're going to put something on social media, please use #OverTheEdgeDE. That allows us to repeat it or retweet it, I should say, and share it so others get the word out about Special Olympics. That's how this event has maintained a steady number of people involved in this event. We are back over 80 people the last 3 years. I believe we were in the mid-70s. That was after having a high of 92 early on in the event history. And so we'd like to get back over that 90 number. We came close this year with 87. And what it takes is what you've seen here, especially with a couple of our last few rappellers, where they've had 1 or 2 people who have recruited 1 or 2 more people who have already committed to coming back next year and bringing new people with them. So that's what it takes, whether you want to rappel yourself or help somebody raise the money to do it. It's all for a great cause. 4,200 athletes who compete in Special Olympics, as Jackson Rosembert makes that last final descent, and he has landed. And Joe Hayes will be coming up next, and that will leave us 5 people left to go. And it looks like Joe may have locked up. He was going along very smoothly, maybe a little bit too smoothly, and there is a mechanism that if you descend too quickly, it locks up, and that's a safety measure so that people don't go faster than they should, whether they would try to do it on purpose if they're very experienced, or if they would maybe pull faster than they should, and the rope kind of jerks. And it gives you that sensation of, uh-oh, here I'm going, and the rope just locks up. So, as we said, one of the best things about this event, it gives people the confidence, even if they're nervous about doing it, is that there's been a 100% success rate. Every single person that has rappelled, and for Special Olympics events alone across the country, more than 12,700 people have done this completely safe. And so it's been a wonderful fundraiser event, not only here in Delaware, but around the country, around North America, actually. And 3 of our neighboring states, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, did site visits today here in Delaware to see this event live.
How does that make you feel?
Makes us feel proud that we're, that we were one of the first ones to do it. I think the committee that puts it together, the event directors, Lisa Smith, Corinne Plummer, and Ann Gruner, the Special Olympics, they do everything first class, and that's what the states came in here and see. And, I think a goal for any event that we run in Special Olympics, whether it's a fundraising event or a sports event of any size, is we want to be the model. We want to be the model for other states to look at. And that's not to say everything we do is perfect. It's safe to say, as you see Joe Hayes come down, that they're not going to mimic everything we do. They may not have the capabilities or the interest to do a live stream or to do 2 ropes instead of 1. They may not have a bank willing to hold a party-like atmosphere outside like TD Bank does and has done.
Or drill holes in their building to anchor it.
Or drill holes in the building to anchor it, that's for sure. But what we hope and what we think we've accomplished is every single, as they were talking about from Over the Edge, the goal is that every edger walk away having a good experience. That even if they were nervous, even if they were a little timid when they started, that they walk away glad that they did the event. And we realize not everybody's going to come back and do it again. Even if they want to, they may not have the financial resources to do it. But we want them walking away, and so if somebody asks them the question, hey, was it a great experience, we want that answer to be yes. We want the 10-star out of 10-star rating that every car dealer wants, every restaurant wants, everything that anybody asks for a survey wants. We want that 10 stars out of 10 stars. So Joe Hayes has landed. Steve Cason, Cassandra Neumann up next. I assume this is Cassandra?
This is Cassie Neumann.
Cassie Neumann is up. She is a $1,500 fundraiser, so she'll get the special inscribed plaque with the photo, the postcard photo that she'll pose for in just a second when she takes the dip and puts those arms out. She works at WGNS LLP. She is a first-time edger. She saw the event happening last year, and thought it was cool, and she also has a family friend who participates in the Special Olympics, and she knows the positive impact that it has had on that friend. She wants to thank family, friend, and colleagues who helped her raise her goal in 5 days and far surpass it. So she put an email. We talked about how it's kind of an easy event to raise money for when people hear what you're doing and the cause that it's for. So in 5 days, Cassie raised $1,500, $400 more than she had to raise. So a great job there by Cassie getting ready to go over the edge. And so she is going to be on the blue rope. And so she is the only one in your screen at this time. Steve Cason, Brian Biggs, Chuck Dixon, and Christian Plack will round out the edgers for the 2017 Over the Edge event. And it looks like we're going to finish just about on time because Cassie was scheduled to go at 4 o'clock, and it is 3:55. So happy that things have worked out despite the rain. And I believe just about everybody, I've got one name of somebody who did not make it for whatever reason, and we never know what the reason it is. And but anyway, other than that, there's going to be 86 edgers who are going to have gone down because we had one person who wasn't originally on the list who went down first today, and so the number hasn't changed. There will be 87 people signed up and paid. 86 will have gone down, assuming that these final 4 after Cassie. Is it Cassie or Cassie? We're not sure what it is. I think her full name is Cassandra, so I'm going to assume it's Cassie based on that.
Cassie it is.
Cassie,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, Cassandra or Cassie for short. And
get that picture.
She's a first-time edger there. She's a couple steps away from that postcard picture that she'll need for the inscribed plaque. You can see I-95 in the background there, the Rockford Park. If you're just tuning in and you're familiar with Wilmington, that's the site you see. And there the technicians are telling her, put those arms out. She looks a little nervous as a first-time edger. You can expect that. And now she's ready to go. Technicians are talking to her and reminding her of everything. And you know what's great to see, Jimmy, is it's the end of the day.
Yeah.
These technicians got here at 6:30 like the rest of us, and they've been up on that roof in one role or another, like, the rest of us have been involved in this event, and they are spending the exact same amount of time going through the exact same safety checks and procedures. And we talked about this, how they spent the same amount of time with Hank Tomczyk, who's done this for 7 years, as they are spending with Cassie, who is doing it for the first time. And they're talking her through the process and they're making sure that that experience that she has.
Yeah, this isn't a carnival ride.
No,
this isn't
right?
Just, all right, you kids,
Right.
get on the Ferris wheel.
Strap
We're
in
almost
and hang
done.
on.
No, this is a serious business here, and you want to make sure that she finally gets to smile
Yep.
like that.
And there it is, and the laughter along with it. And we've had people tell us time and time again, not only when they come in and talk to us, but afterward, how comfortable the technicians involved in this event make people feel. And, you know, I think a big part of that is not only because it is a business for the Over the Edge company, but it's a hobby for all of these people that are involved. And so it's like if you're a golfer and you take somebody golfing for the first time, you want them to have a good experience. You want them to develop that passion that you have. Or if you're a biker or a runner or a swimmer, or if you're a rappeller, you want them to have that experience, that positive experience that you know can happen and that can get you hooked on this type of an event. And so they're making sure that that happens for everybody. We just saw it hands-on with Kassie as she looked nervous, and then she finally broke out in a little bit of laughter and a big smile, and she's taken that first step over that upper lip. We've talked about that second story spot where they pull you out, so you just have to lower yourself. Basically at that point your feet are disconnected from the building, but up there you take basically 3 or 4 steps back, and then you go on to the window glass. And so that's kind of a little bit of a tricky part, but we don't see people really struggle with that part of the climb. And so it's not as tricky as it looks. And you can see Kassie is just making her way down one step at a time. And you've seen different techniques people have used coming down. There's the one-step descent like you're seeing Kassie use. There's also been some who have kind of pushed themselves off the wall and pushed down on the lever, and they go a whole story at one time before they reconnect with the wall. And so it really just becomes a comfort level of what you are most comfortable with in coming down that building. It's 17 stories, 222 feet. This is the 300 Delaware Avenue building in Wilmington. It's right next to the Sheraton Suites. It's got 2 banks on the bottom of it, PNC Bank, and the sponsor, one of the 3 sponsors of this event, TD Bank, is also there. They're providing the festive atmosphere outside. I don't want to say it's a carnival-like atmosphere because there's no rides, but they've been serving soft pretzels and hot dogs and drinks all day long. Music, a DJ, giveaways. The TD Bank mascot was there earlier today, and so they put on quite an entertaining show outside. Rain has been part of this event, but it really has not been a deterrent of this event. There's been a steady flow of people here to watch. Everything from parents and grandparents to friends to classrooms who came to watch teachers go over the edge. And so it's been exciting to watch that unfold as well. So we're coming to the close here. By my count, with Kassie up there, we've got 4 people left to go. Kassie has raised more than the $1,100 requirement. She raised the $1,500, which is the first incentive for the Over the Edge people to meet. And you get an inscribed plaque, which is a really neat thing for somebody to get there. So it is going to be a nice finish here to the event as we wind down with 4 more people left to go. After this, it looks like we should end up right around 4:30. The last propellers should hit the landing area, and so we are excited to get the total numbers. We should have that for you as well. Based on our counts of the list we have here, with the one person who was not able to make it, there will be 86 people who will have gone over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware, and we'll have the number total for you. It's not a simple math problem of 86 times 1,100 for different reasons. There is corporate sponsorships built into it and things like that. So, but we usually get a final number for you before we go off the air here coming up in about the next half hour. So it is 4 o'clock officially, which means we've been on the air for 7 hours and 15 minutes. We've had over 2,500 viewers, which we are excited about, who have tuned in to see this at one point or another. The 7th annual Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics Delaware. 4,200 athletes who compete in 19 sports year-round. Kassie, a first-time edger, is making it to the bottom here. She's beyond that last spot where they pull you away from the building right there. so you can make the lower yourself and land. So there is Cassie. She has officially landed, and that brings us down to 4 people left to go here for the 7th annual Special Olympics event. Steve Cason, Brian Biggs, Chuck Dixon, and Christian Plack Sr. are all on board and will appear, we assume, 2 at a time, not necessarily in that order, coming up here. And it looks like they're waiting for them to get loaded at the top of the building. And so they're readjusting the equipment there and waiting here. And that's the site supervisor. You've heard his name a few times, Jeff Martin, there in the white helmet. He's talking about a couple things here and going over some last-minute things, or I shouldn't say last-minute things, talking about things. He always says one of the things he likes to hear about that he enjoys the most is the stories that he hears after the event, because he's not in every area. He's oversees every area, but he doesn't hear all the stories that go on. And he was saying how it is always interesting to hear the stories when they go out to dinner later on tonight and celebrate another successful event, what will have raised more than $100,000 for Special Olympics Delaware and bring the total in the 7 years to over $850,000 for Special Olympics Delaware. If you are interested in volunteering for Special Olympics, they're always looking for experienced coaches. Maybe you coached your child's little, football league, little league team, soccer league team, and want to get back into it because your kids no longer do it for whatever reason. Special Olympics is a great way to get back to the community, and they could use your expertise. If you've never coached but maybe played, they're looking for folks like that as well. They provide all the training, both not only how to coach the sport, but some of the strategies to coach Special Olympics athletes. What I've learned in my experiences, they're no different than coaching any other athlete. You've got unique personalities. You've got unique behaviors. You have some nights when they'll give you 100% and some nights when they won't. And I think that happens at every level of sports, including the pro level. So don't let you thinking that you can't learn how to coach a Special Olympics athlete. If you've coached before, if you've played, you can. Special Olympics is always looking for volunteers in other areas as well. So it looks like we've got a little
You think
lull
this could be a
in the
rope
action.
check?
Yeah, I can't imagine they're doing a rope check with 4
yeah.
people left to go. But again, who knows? Not sure. But why don't we show them a couple images of Special Olympics, and we'll make sure we're back on the air live as soon as they load up the next 2 of the final 4 repellers. You're watching a live stream of the 2017 Over the Edge event to benefit Special Olympics. Getting geared in there, last check. They're going over what happens when you lock up. You can see how he's lowering his, and he just locked up. You see how they kind of flinched, and he pulls back on the lever and pulls it forward. Great job by the cameraman getting that action. First time we've actually seen that, and we've tried to explain it, but now you can see what happens when you lock up and how simple it is. It's that simple to re-engage the lever and get it going. He just locked up again. He's doing the exact same thing I did, Jimmy. I locked up 3 times in the exact same amount of time that he is, because it just you think you're going and boom, it locks up because you're going too fast.
Yeah, you get your momentum and you get your internal fortitude to go, and then it locks.
And then it locks, and you can see he locked up again. And there he goes, and now he's doing the postcard pose. Smile there, and now he is ready to go. See I-95 there in the background. It gives you some sense of how high up they really are. 17 stories, 222 feet. And there's the shot from the ground. That's exactly what you would see. That's not zoomed in, it's not zoomed out. That's the shot taken from right behind the bleachers that are brought in with the number of people that come out for this event. First couple years we did this event, we didn't have bleachers, and then there was a steady growth of the number of people who came out for this event. And so we have bleachers brought in at 6 o'clock in the morning and set up for the crowd that comes out. The biggest crowd, of course, is at lunchtime, sometime between 11 and 1, when people actually leave their offices, not only in this building, but the surrounding buildings, and come over and check it out. But we appreciate you tuning in. We've had more than 2,600 people tune in today. We are thrilled with that number of people who have taken the time to probably tune in to see somebody in particular, probably seen a few other people in that process, or maybe just somebody who heard about the event, couldn't get down here to Wilmington to see it, especially with the rain. Probably was a little deterrent if somebody was planning to come, but tuned in to actually get some sense. We hope we've provided you with that, both in our audio descriptions as well, and more importantly with the excellent video, the visuals that have been provided by the 3 camera shots, the angles we have, the one you're looking at right now on the roof, and then also the one from the floor you just saw, and then one close-up in the landing area where you see the hugs and the smiles and the high five. That is Jeff Martin, the site safety supervisor. We've seen him quite a bit. Oh, and the rain.
Sorry, that's my signl for rain.
Oh, gotcha.
You can see it.
I thought there was a
raining.
spider on the screen when you were
No,
doing
he's
your
getting
fingers
wet
down.
too.
Yeah,
I think it's raining a little
now.
more.
So maybe the
spider.
rain has come back.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think the rain has ever left. It's just been a steady rain, sometimes harder than others, but completely safe. You've heard several people come in and comment who have done this before. This is the first time we've ever even had a rain drop in the 7 years we've done this event, and it's basically been a steady rain since 12 o'clock, completely unexpected. As of last night at this time when we were looking at the forecast, it was for maybe a chance of showers to start about now, and instead they started at noon, so go figure that. But you can see there that is Steve Cason making his way down. We'll find out who that other gentleman is. We're waiting for an update on that. Steve, one of 4 people left to go, and so the other one should be up there and in the rig, ready to go here soon as we come to a close. Steve Cason was scheduled to go right at 4 o'clock, and so he was about 5 minutes late or so up there, and so he's making his way down. There's our next repeller. And we're going to try to, he hasn't shown our cameraman his name tag, so we've even tried to zoom in up there, as we've done a couple times to get a name and haven't been able to do that. We're waiting for the communication here. Not sure if this could be Brian Biggs. It is Brian Biggs, looking at the name tag. So Brian Biggs is on the yellow rope. He works at DLA Piper LLP in the United States. He's a first-timer, but his wife Amanda has gone over the edge each of the last 2 years. He's most scared of the fear of heights. And so, Jimmy, we've talked about that, how, it's one thing to have a little timidness, but to be scared of the heights. And there is Brian Biggs, and you can see the rain has picked up. You can see that in the background. That's a great close-up, and Brian has the GoPro on his helmet. Jimmy Smith's crew is not only videoing this event live, but they're creating video snippets we'll be able to use on social media and in meetings and presentations for years to come. So that's going to be the GoPro angle that Brian Biggs is going to do for us. And, we've seen a lot of facial expressions, a lot of different ones from this angle. It's my favorite angle because you really get to see what the people are thinking. And he is a first-timer, and he looks probably what I looked like when I was doing it for my first time.
Little ghastly here.
Little nervous.
Yeah.
But he's already past the point of no return, and that is he is back, and he is right now in the hands of the ropes.
There's another phrase. I know that's literal, like you can't necessarily go back up.
Right.
I just don't know if people like that phrase. That's another
the point
one of
of
those
no
ones
return,
like
right?
drop
Yeah.
or
No,
fall or
the
land.
reality of it is, I'm pretty confident they can bring you up, and I'm pretty confident I know they can lower you down.
Yeah.
If you needed that, and so wanted to just not have control and lower yourself, and he's getting himself readjusted there. He says his wife, who has done it before, has inspired him. That's Steve Cason. And you can see he's kind of lowering himself. We've seen people use their feet kind of like you would see a superhero do, and some people just hang like Steve is and lower themselves. He's got a wave to the crowd there. He said, we talked about fundraising and ways to do it. Brian Biggs put up a simple Facebook post and raised $1,000 in 2 hours. And so all of these repellers, they create fundraising pages for themselves, and then they send that link out. And they say, here's my link. Go on the link and use your credit card. And so he raised $1,000 in 2 hours. And we've always said, everybody said, wow, $1,000 or $1,100 is the actual amount you have to raise. And we always say, people tell us they don't have trouble raising the money because you tell people what you're doing and they're in all of that. And then you tell them there's a cause behind it and what that cause is in Special Olympics. And there's not one person I've met in my nearly 30 years of being involved in this organization that doesn't think the world of Special Olympics, whether it's here in Delaware, somewhere else in this country, or somewhere else in the world. So he wanted to recognize all those people on the Facebook post. This is Brian Biggs we're talking about. That's Steve Cason you see in the picture there. And Steve, I know, has many supporters who he would want to thank as well, and we appreciate him doing this event a second time and all that he does for Special Olympics Delaware. He and his wife, Stacy, just do a tremendous amount of volunteer work for us, especially for our summer games, which is coming up June 9th and 10th at the University of Delaware, where you can come out, be a fan in the stands. You ask our Special Olympics athletes what they love most about Special Olympics, they'll tell you it's fun, and they'll tell you they love performing in front of fans. And the only way they can do that is if people come out and support them. So do yourself a favor on June 9th and 10th. Set aside some time to come out to the University of Delaware. 6 sports: tennis, aquatics, track, bocce, softball, and powerlifting will go on at Special Olympics Delaware. The Summer Games, the 43rd Annual Summer Games at the University of Delaware, as Steve Cason makes his landing, and that leaves us with 3. Brian Biggs, who is up now, and Chuck Dixon and Christian Plack, who will be soon to follow, which will put us pretty much right on time. The last 2 guys were scheduled to come down at 4:30. There's one of them who will be heading down here shortly, and we'll see. We'll figure out who that is. They've got a GoPro there. You can see that on there. And we do have our official numbers. We had 86 edgers raise $138,000. So an unbelievable amount of support for Special Olympics Delaware. 86 edgers have raised $138,000.
That's incredible.
And every single dime of that stays right here in this state of Delaware. And so a thank you to everyone who went over the edge, everyone who supported the folks going over the edge. We appreciate that. The 4,200 athletes appreciate that here in Delaware. 86 edgers raise $138,000 for Special Olympics Delaware. Congratulations to everyone involved in the event, and again, a huge thanks to our sponsors: TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, Newcastle County Fire Service, Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, the supporters, Sheraton Suites of Wilmington, right next door, Delmarva Broadcasting Company, and the Delaware Rock Gym. Just an unbelievable effort. A long day, both here in the broadcast room, but outside where people have put up with the rain since about 12 o'clock. And you can see first-timer Brian Biggs is about 3/4 of the way down, so not doing bad for a first-timer. Chuck Dixon and Kristen Plack Sr. are left to go here.
And Chuck is queued up and ready to go from there. He is.
That is Chuck. Chuck Dixon is ready to go, scheduled to go down at 4:20. It's 4:19, so a great job by the over-the-edge staff and, of course, the volunteers involved in the process, from check-in up to the safety training. Then when you get up on the roof and you practice the feeling of what it's like to hang and to use the lever to get yourself moving till you get to the point here where Chuck is. He has repeated the event in the first 2 years it came to Delaware. The hardest part is letting go. You can see him hanging on and taking that first step over the edge. As I get older, my fear of heights continues to get worse. Once over, though, it is pure enjoyment going down. So we talked, Jimmy, about the numbers going up and then down and now back up. And this is a perfect example of Chuck. He did it the first 2 years when our numbers were in the high 80s and the low 90s.
Yep.
Then our numbers dipped into the 70s, which is still a tremendous event, raised over $100,000. But Chuck wasn't here for those events. Who knows why? Who knows, what the reasons were? But he's back. And so that's what we talk about, how when you do an event like this, it's important for people to come back. And just because you take a year off doesn't mean you can't come back. And the same for the plunge, same for all the other fundraising events that we do. So Chuck Dixon is loaded and ready to come down. He wanted to thank everybody that supports his efforts. This, of course, is Brian Biggs, the first-time rappeller. Got the GoPro on, and he's making a landing here. You can see the rain has picked back up a little bit. It looked like it had subsided slightly but has picked back up a little bit. 86 edgers have raised $138,000 for Special Olympics Delaware, and that means this event now has raised close to $930,000. I do the math here real quick and figure out what that might be. Almost. I can't do the math. I got to figure that out. It's
what are the numbers?
138,000 plus 758,000.
You ready?
Yep.
896.
896. You know, that's what I had, and I was thinking that can't be right, but it is. Almost $900,000 for Special Olympics Delaware has been raised from this incredible event that has raised more than $20 million nationally and in North America for Special Olympics Delaware. As you see, Brian Biggs, who lands here, and 2 to go. Chuck Dixon and Christian Plack, our final 2 edgers who are going over. It's been a tremendous day. Anthony Borgini, the Special Olympics athlete who is legally blind, as you look at Chuck Dixon there. Anthony went down at 12 o'clock noon with no problems. One of the volunteers went down with him just to kind of be his eyes for the event. But Anthony went down with no problem. He came in and talked about the experience. He hoped to do it again next year. And again, a reminder that when our athletes, and Anthony, I believe, is the 4th, maybe the 5th athlete who has done this event, they raise the money to do this event. And so they don't just get a spot because they're Special Olympics Delaware athletes. They have to go through everything that the edgers do. They go through the same training. They have the opportunity to go to the Delaware Rock Gym and do that. And they have an opportunity to raise the money. They have to raise the money to do it. They are not allowed to go over like anyone else unless they have raised the $1,100. And so you heard Anthony talk about the reason he does this event is he does it for himself and his fellow teammates because he understands the value of Special Olympics. And you've heard other people, parents we talk to, coaches we talk to, talk about the same thing, that what makes this event special is certainly the thrill, and especially that first time it's a thrill, but what brings people back is the cause that it supports, and that's Special Olympics Delaware. Now almost $900,000 has been raised through this event, finishing up its 7th year. Every single dime stays right here in the first state for the 4,200 athletes who benefit from Special Olympics Delaware. So again, this year's totals 86 people, 138,000 people involved in this. $138,000, I should say, raised for Special Olympics Delaware.
And then I don't know if we were expecting another person, but I'm hearing from up top that Chuck Dixon is it.
Chuck Dixon is it. Okay, so I'm going to try to email. So they've confirmed that up top that
that's
they
what they're saying
up
at
top.
the top camera. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to, before we go off the air, I want to make sure of that, so I'm going to try to verify that up top because we have, we wouldn't want to go off the air and have somebody go down with a large fan base waiting to finish up here. And so I'm going to try to get that confirmed, and we will see here if that's the case, but we will kind of start trying to wrap things up as if that is the case here. And Jimmy, what were our final numbers for the broadcast of people tuning in this year?
Just under 2,700, and so I think that's pretty good. That's the second most all-time, just behind last year's 29.
Right, and that's great. So 2,700 people tuned in. We appreciate you tuning in for this live stream of the Special Olympics Over the Edge event. A reminder that this live stream will be available on YouTube early next week. The links to it will be available on the SODE.org website, as will the links to all the photo galleries that will have been created. You can download photos of the people you supported for free. We want people to share them, and please continue to share on social media photos that you might get from your friends who went over using the hashtag OverTheEdgeDE. And so I have gotten final confirmation that Chuck Dixon is our final repeller. We're certainly going to watch him finish all the way to the end, as we have done with everyone else. We've told you a little bit about Chuck Dixon. He works at Hatzler and Bueller, the oldest electrical contractor in the United States. He's the friend of a former athlete, and I know this athlete, Forrest Wilson. He used to compete with the Thunder Bears in Newark years ago when we had individual community programs. And as we mentioned, he participated the first 2 years and then didn't participate for a couple years for whatever reason, but is back. and he does it because he's inspired by the joy and excitement in the faces of the Special Olympics athletes. He used to skydive, but when he proposed to his wife, she said yes with one condition. He had to give up skydiving. Now, that's a man in my book here of never skydiving, or nor would I. And he said it's the best decision he ever made. Now he does all his diving under the water as a scuba diver, something, Jimmy, you want to do eventually. Something, again, I have no interest. We have already declared we're the two most boring people at this event, without question. But anyway, he wants to give a special shout-out to the owners, branch managers, regional controllers, and all of the fellow workers at Haetzel and Bueller, the company that he works for, and probably the folks that supported him in his final descent. Chuck Dixon making the final descent, the final repeller of 86 folks who participated in today's event and yesterday's Media Day event to raise $138,000 for Special Olympics Delaware. That puts a wrap on the 7th annual event. We're already excited for next year. It'll be May 10th, 2018, right here at the 300 Delaware Avenue building in Wilmington. If you would like to register for that event, you can at SODE.org. It's a $50 deposit to secure your spot, and you have the rest of the year to raise the additional money up to $1,100. Once again, a shout out to the sponsors of this event, TD Bank, Brandywine Realty Trust, and Newcastle County Fire Service. The supporting sponsors include the Delaware Law Enforcement for Special Olympics, the Sheraton Suites here in downtown Wilmington, Delmarva Broadcasting Company, and the Delaware Rock Gym. A special thanks, Jimmy, to you and your staff. We appreciate you being here, the amount of effort and the work that it took you to get here, to put on this production. We can't thank you enough for what you did, and we look forward to having you back again next year.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Great cause, and we loved it again. Thank you.
Final numbers of the 2017 Over the Edge event as Chuck Dixon puts an end to it here at the 300 Delaware Avenue building as he gets unharnessed. The final repeller, 86 people went over the edge for Special Olympics Delaware, raising $138,000, bringing the 7-year total close to $900,000 raised for Special Olympics Delaware. Thanks again to the sponsors, the supporters, the folks from the Over the Edge USA company who come in and do this event, and, of course, all the volunteers that helped out on the roof, at registration, and on the ground. Special Olympics couldn't do it without your supporter. For Jimmy Smith, I'm John Busby. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for your support of Special Olympics Delaware and the Over the Edge event. Good evening, everybody.